their website at igotfloored.com. If you want to visit them in store, you can visit them in St. Charles County, West County, and in Darien Prairie. But again, Michael's Flooring Outlet online right now for a free estimate, igotfloored.com.
The Range St. Louis West is launching the countdown to 250 years of American freedom this July by giving away 5,000 rounds of 9mm ammo. 5 winners will get 1,000 rounds each, and winners are going to be drawn July 1st. Don't miss your shot. Enter now at therangestl.com/ammo. You have to be 21 or older to enter. It's open to Missouri residents and Illinois residents with a valid FOID card. No purchase necessary. therangestl.com/ammo.
We've been here 30 years, 30 Christmases in this house, and we have the traditions that most families have.
That's Terry talking about her experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We did Rhino Shield 14 years ago, and the house still looks the same as the first day. Rhino Shield really worked with me to help me get just the right, nice, soft yellow, and it's 14 years later, and it's the same color.
The main reason Terry called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by its 25-year transferable warranty.
It just sounded wonderful that we could have the house coated with Rhino Shield and not have to worry about it again for 25 years.
Take it from Terry. Give Rhino Shield a call now for a free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
There have been neighbors that have come by and said, "Did you just have your house painted?" Because they wanted to know who the contractor was. And I said, "No, it's actually Rhino Shield."
877-25rhino.com.
Is thinning hair or receding hairline making you self-conscious? Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
Right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Oh, yeah, this is the moment you have been waiting for.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom.
Annie's out. Brian and Brad are in.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
This is the Mannie Frey Show.
I will say it's a tough thing to watch, this public feud. I actually think they're going to reconcile at some point, though, because deep down, I would like to believe they both want the same thing. But we must be very clear, though, that what President Trump wants in this bill, because that really was the forcing function of this kind of this feud and this schism, is exactly what he ran on.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think they're going to reconcile? I mean, this is a breakthrough story in that my wife was actually talking about it last night, which means if a political story has broken through to my wife, it's a big one. This is the Mannie Frey Show. We said Ryan and Brad are in. It's actually a rare occasion where just Ryan is in with Ethan and no Brad and no Annie. And these days don't really happen very often. So we still played the Mannie Frey Show open. My deepest, sincere apologies to Ethan, who is in the room and is not in the open still.
I don't believe you. It's as simple as that.
No,
I don't believe
it's
your
real.
apology.
I really do. In this moment, feel bad. This moment won't last long.
That's what I was going to ask. How long is this moment considered?
Very short. But I do want to reconcile with you. I'm not sure that the two biggest names in politics in the world, though, do want to reconcile. Laura Ingraham says she doesn't think they'll ever get back together. The bromance is dead.
Well, I talked to an insider today who said it's irreparable. That was the line. It is irreparable. But yeah, look, Donald Trump will sit down with anybody. So it's correct. Probably not irreparable on Trump's side. But Elon Musk, I mean, again, you run your own kingdom at your companies. You're still a public company. You can't totally do everything, but you're in charge. But look, Donald Trump's in charge. And the Congress is Congress, so you gotta kind of you have to deal with the reality of what you have in front of you. Trump's a realist. He's and I love Rand Paul. Everyone loves Rand Paul, but Rand Paul ran for president. I don't know how many times, but if they want to try to run Rand Paul again, I mean, God bless them. I don't think that's going to work.
So the reports are that apparently, and maybe this is just internet chatter, so it could be nothing, but apparently Trump and Musk are supposed to have a phone call this weekend. We'll see. We'll see if that actually happens. I know people like to report gossip, so maybe it's nothing. But here is Trump's response on all of the Elon Musk drama.
President Trump has now responded to Elon Musk on his Truth Social account, and he posted this. Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy.
Well, in Elon's defense, he said he wanted them to remove the EV mandate or the EV credits because it actually would help Tesla, and he explained it. But beside the point, yeah, there's definitely a rift between these two guys now, and government contracts are at stake, and things are being pulled left and right. But apparently they're supposed to talk. It does seem strange, and I'm just talking about the personal drama here. We can get into like what the substance of the argument is in just a second. But there's a lot of personal drama here from two of the biggest personalities and most powerful people in the world. So yeah, everybody's paying attention to it, and they want to know what ramifications it's going to have. I read yesterday that Elon actually tweeted out to basically all of Congress, hey, remember, this president's going to be president for another 3.5 years. I will be in your life as possibly a donor for another 40 years. I mean, you talk about throwing down the gauntlet, that's doing it. So can these guys make happy and make good? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. They mostly have a mutual beneficial directional relationship. Like they're going in the same general direction. So I would like to see, and I know the big conservative talking point has been that, well, we want to see these guys get back together. You know, Mike Lee and a lot of guys are out there and women saying, we want to see the bromance continue. That's what's best for the country on the conservative side. So we asked you in the YouTube live chat poll today, should conservatives take sides in Musk versus Trump? Yes, balance the budget. That would be the Musk side. Yes, pass the president's agenda. That would be the Trump side. Or no, they should not take sides in this. We're looking at some of your comments right now. Erica says, I voted no. I still think the debt is so overwhelming. We're all so screwed. Well, that would be a little bit on Musk's side there. I actually, without weighing and trying to get too far into this, I'm still kind of in the Musk camp here. And I'll tell you why in just a second. But there's another comment I wanted to pull up here from right when we put the poll up. Can't vote in the poll. Vicky says, can't vote in the poll because I really don't care. 4.5 months in, and I'm already exhausted by everyone in DC. Yeah, I get it. We all get it. But this is the stuff that, as we say in this industry, and I don't know if other industries say this is how the donuts are made, or this is how the sausage is made. It's kind of messy, and you end up eating it and you like it, but you don't necessarily want to see the process. But we're watching the process play out on the biggest stage possible. The whole world is watching it. Here's why I still side with Elon on this. And let me put aside the Trump is in the Epstein files thing for a minute, because that, to me, if they're going to have a phone call this weekend, they might have been able to repair. But the minute Trump or Musk comes out and goes, you know why Trump won't release the Epstein files? It's because he's in them. That, to me, is, okay, this ain't going to happen. These guys are done. How do you repair from that? Because now that's a completely separate issue that Trump is going to have to deal with and should deal with. I've seen people saying, we probably have clips in here that I'll get to in a minute, that say, yeah, Trump will have to address this now, and he should. But that aside, taking it at its core, this is still about the one big, beautiful bill. And the one big, beautiful bill, depending on how you project it, still adds to the deficit. Some projections say that it adds about $500 billion. That's $500 billion every year. But then after a while, it would start going down. After a while is the way congressional math always works, because they want the benefit of it now. And then later, it'll get real good. And then a different Congress comes along later and goes, how about if we change it to make it good for us now? That's the way it always goes. And so I don't trust these people as far as I can throw them to stick with a plan for more than 2 years. But that aside, every estimate says that it's still going to add to the deficit. Now, let me define this, because there are a lot of people that when you even say deficit and debt, you kind of get lost in what we're talking about here. Deficit is how much extra money is going toward the national debt every year. That's how much the government is overspending past what they're bringing in. That's the deficit. The national debt is how much overall that we all owe. And I pulled up a graph. Everybody's seen graphs on this. And I think we've gotten to the point of boy who cried wolf real quickly on the national debt, because people have been saying my whole life. Ethan, I remember in the 90s, I was in junior high. I had a teacher that was talking about the unbelievable amount of debt our nation was in. And we were just about to crack 10 trillion. That's a lot of money. But where we are now.
It's tripled.
It has tripled. Actually, it's even more than that, because it's 36, 37 trillion. And the more time that goes by while we're debating the one beautiful bill, the more that goes up.
Right.
So that's an argument for the big beautiful bill to pass, because it will actually reduce the rate at which the deficit or the national debt goes up, at least. But it still won't reduce or get rid of it. It'll add to it. So here it is. In 1944, we were in World War II. Our debt had gone up, and it spikes right in 1944 because it was almost nothing until then. It spikes to $5 trillion. The war ends, it drops back to about $3 trillion. And the amazing thing is, from about 1946 through 1984, it stays at $3 trillion. That's in my lifetime. 1981, I was born. Now, in 1984, you think, well, conservative Ronald Reagan gets in office. What does the debt do? It actually goes up, but it not just over Reagan's second term, because that's his second term, but it goes up from 1984 to 2004. That's over Republican and Democrat presidents, from about 5 trillion to about 10 trillion, maybe 12 trillion in 2004. That's not that long ago. 2004 is within your lifetime too, right?
Right. Yeah.
So in 2004, we're sitting in our country at $12 trillion in debt. And if you looked at the graph at that moment, you'd go, wow, it's really spiked within the last 20 years. It was flat for 20, 30 years. And then all of a sudden, wow, we really started growing it. But let me prepare you for what happens after 2004. It goes up a little bit in Bush's second term, up to about, when he leaves office, it's at about 13 trillion.
Okay.
The minute Obama gets in office, the line almost goes straight up because of all the things that Obama and the Democrat supermajority Senate that he had for 2 years with Obamacare and all of the, I can't remember the name of the bill that they passed. It was like a New Deal kind of get Americans back to work, because we had been in a recession in 2008 bill. It spikes immediately to 20 trillion, like in the first year and a half of Obama's first term. By the time Obama leaves, we're at about just shy of $25 trillion. So it goes up unbelievably over Obama's term. Then, and part of that you can say is because of the recession that we had been in. Everybody agreed, oh yeah, we got to get things back on track. Then Trump gets in office, it does go up, and then boom, COVID hits, it shoots up to just about 33 trillion. Right now we're at 36. So that's the short history. But I'm trying to paint this, it's radio, of course, so I can't like show you this, but I'm trying to paint this picture that basically since Bush left office, 2008-ish, 2009, it has the national debt has gone up so much, from about 15 trillion roughly to we're going to be close to 40 trillion by the end of the year. That is so fast, but we've gotten into a place where the boy who cried wolf, like I said, in the 90s, I was hearing this. We've all heard it our whole lives. We're going toward fiscal calamity. We'll never recover. We'll never recover. We'll never recover. Well, we've never really dealt with those problems yet. And so we just keep adding to it because the consequences have never really shown up. But those who know what those consequences are going to be are still sounding those alarms. And people, I got to tell you, we've got to wake up to those alarms, because they eventually will catch up to us, and it is going to be nasty. The amount that you paid extra from 2020 to 2022 will look like nothing compared to the inflation. When you start paying into a death spiral of debt, not only does your money become less and less valuable very quickly, but your power goes down. America will not be the superpower that we are. If you like the way of life that you have, we have to deal with this problem, and we have to deal with it right now, because the amount of debt we're paying already is $1 trillion a year just in interest on that debt. It gets to the point where you start to have creditors downgrade you so much that not only are you paying that much in interest, but you're paying extra because your credit isn't good. So that's what they call a death spiral. Guys, we have to address this problem. I'm glad, and this is why I'm kind of with Elon on this, and I wish he hadn't gone into the Epstein files and made it so much more dramatic than it needed to be. If he had stuck to just, we've got to deal with the debt, maybe we actually could deal with this thing. Hopefully we do, because I really believe that this is the time that we have to do it. Real quick, before we get to the end of the segment here, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, said that he had a conversation with Elon Musk. Real quick.
I'm going to call Elon right now.
There it is. He's going to go call Elon right now. It's a 1-second clip. I'm like, well, I got to get that in there.
I'm going to call Elon right now.
Thank you for putting that in the folder there, Ethan. I really appreciate that.
That's what I do.
You're going to call Elon right now. All right. Thank you, sir. Apparently, they did have a call. Elon hasn't reported on what that call with Mike Johnson was like, but Mike Johnson did. He said that they had a very good call and that it eased some of Elon's concerns. Now, that's coming from Mike Johnson, not from Elon Musk. That does encourage me a little bit, because one of the things that a lot of other conservatives have said, who've said, no, we do need to pass this bill and deal with the debt a little bit separately, is that's what Mike Johnson's plan is. That sounds like kind of what Mike Johnson was telling Elon, is we got to get this bill passed, but then we can do a lot more with it to get the deficit down. I still don't love that plan, because you're still kicking the can, but at least they're talking about it. That's my whole point. Hopefully, if you take anything away from this segment, it's that we need to deal with the debt, and we need to be constantly vigilant in talking about that subject, because it's that big of a deal to everything we do in America.
It just sounds like, in your opinion, there's not enough trust still for the people that are in DC to, even if they are talking about it, that they're going to be able to get it done or work towards it at some point, even whether they pass this or not.
You got leverage right now, because you got to pass a new bill.
Right.
You got to pass Trump's agenda. That's almost like a no-brainer. But at this moment, there are such slim majorities in both sides of Congress that if you're one or two people, you can kind of throw this thing for a loop. And I kind of like the people that are saying, no, we demand that you still cut more from this. I know that sometimes that'll make me unpopular. That'll make them unpopular. I get people like, they're just grandstanding. Well, it needs to happen. I'm sorry, but that's my position on this, is that it does need to happen sooner than later. All right, let's take a short break. And hey, since the question of the day is, should conservatives, take sides in Musk versus Trump? Yes, balance the budget. That would be the Musk side. Yes, pass the president's agenda. That would be the Trump side. Or no. Those are three options. I figure we could open up the phone lines here. And if you just feel strongly about this, if you think I'm way off, that's fine. 314-241-9797. If you think we are not talking about the debt enough as conservatives, not just here, but in general, 314-241-9797. And really anything regarding Musk versus Trump. This is a big American news story, and people across the world are talking about it. So if you have thoughts on Musk versus Trump, we are going to open those phone lines up. And if you want to call, that's totally fine. 314-241-9797. We will be right back.
Don't stop dancing and dreaming. There's still good news worth repeating. So lift your head and keep singing. Praise the Lord.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on X at Annie Frey Show.
If it's time for new windows, there's only one place to call. That is Window World. Mark Cox here. Call my friends at Window World at 314-993-1800 for your free estimate today. If you have any questions, they'll be glad to send someone out to explain all of it to you. You can even schedule right online at windowworldstl.com. You know, there's a lot of high-interest financing out there, but here's what Window World's doing. Right now, they're offering 18 up to 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. You can't beat that. You also get a lifetime warranty that covers all of the parts, the glass breakage, and labor. Who else stands behind their product like that? Over half the appointments Window World will set this year are from previous customers or referrals from those customers. That is a testimony to their customer service, their quality, and their commitment to creating loyal customers. That's what you get with Window World. Call them at 314-993-1800, windowworldstl.com.
What's your favorite four-letter word? Chances are you've said it more than a few times dealing with this crazy world we live in. But at Compass Retirement Solutions, our four-letter word of choice is hope. Hope for a better tomorrow, and hope that your retirement plans don't take a back seat. You've watched inflation soar, and maybe your retirement future feels a little uncertain right now. But all hope is not lost. Find out exactly how much risk you're still taking with your investments. Find out how you may be able to save big on taxes. And find out how having a written retirement plan just might give you the hope you've been looking for. Call today to set up a meeting. 314-373-1598. That's 314-373-1598. Compass Retirement Solutions. 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services but does not provide tax advice. Investments and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory firm in Missouri and Illinois. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Time to schedule your air conditioner service. Get your entire HVAC system checked for $19 a month with the preferred partner plan and be ready for the first heat wave. Visit aircomfortservice.com.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
I want them to turn black.
No, you just want your tax cut. Now, that doesn't apply to most people, most Jewish people see right through that. But the ones that don't see through it, they just don't really, at the end of the day, they just want that tax cut. And you can see it every day.
James Carville says, nobody cares about your stupid tax cut. I think people are going to care when they expire. So when you're paying a lot more in taxes. So that is James Carville, though. So I don't know if you necessarily agree with him. We said we were opening up the phone lines, and my apologies. I'm a fill-in host. So I don't know exactly what I'm doing all the time. We had the phones blocked for like most of the break. So if you called in right at the beginning and you're getting a busy signal, it's because we're idiots. But Gene is on the phone. Gene, where are you at with Trump versus Musk?
Well, I think I was suspicious about Musk originally, but I think he's woken up and smelled the coffee, and Trump's ego is so massive, he can't get past, I know everything, when he really doesn't. They're sneaking stuff by him. He doesn't know. He can't see everything. But my concern about this bill is there's other stuff buried in it. There's provisions that for 10 years keep local governments from restricting some of this EMF stuff like the 5G tower stuff. There's provisions that medical providers like hospitals can give medications to people that are experimental without their permission if it's deemed a low risk. There's other sneaky backdoor stuff that they've stuffed into this. If people want more information, they can go to InfoWars, and some of the other alternative websites. But there's other stuff they've hung on this bill, and they really need a clean bill to just deal with the financial stuff.
But Gene, it's really hard to keep up with, isn't it? Because I see so many reports like what you're talking about, and then I see other people go, oh, no, and lawmakers say, no, that stuff's being misreported. That's not really in there. And you really don't know who to trust because these bills, they get so massive that you and I, if we went to read it, we wouldn't even know half of what we were looking at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, but I'm concerned that Trump's got people around him that are not committed to his agenda, and he's got the bureaucracy under him. He's done some good things, but he's not God. He doesn't see everything, and some of those people are sliding stuff by him. You know, that's my concern. And all of us out here are trying to survive, so we can't all sit on the internet and read bills all day.
Right. Right. Gene, back to the original question before we let you go here. It sounds like, and tell me if I'm misrepresenting you here, it sounds like you're saying really Musk and Trump are on the same side here, and it's Congress and other, the deep state that's kind of hoodwinking everybody.
I think there's a lot of that, and unfortunately, Trump's ego is very tender. He can't bear any criticism or any idea that he could have missed something, even though they're sneaking it by him. He won't let go of this COVID vaccine thing that nobody wants. The personality is getting in the way, I think.
Well, Gene, thank you so much for the call. 314-241-9797 if you have thoughts on Trump versus Musk. If you have thoughts on the big, beautiful bill or really anything in between, we're just going to open up the phone lines. One of the things that she was kind of talking about there that I've heard a lot of people say is that really this isn't Musk versus Trump. It's Musk versus Congress, because Congress is the one kind of pushing a lot of the junk that we've heard this and that are still in this bill. Part of the Green New Deal is apparently legitimately still in this bill. It shocks me that you couldn't cut that stuff immediately. I mean, that seems like top of the line, just scrape the cream off the top stuff, like get rid of it immediately. But that's still in there. The thing is, though, and again, 314-241-9797 as our phones begin to fill up here. But the thing is, my criticism of Trump is that if he were to come out and say, we have to balance the budget, it would happen, because he is the train in the room. He is, everybody else is a car and he's a train, and boom, he's going to hit you if you're in Congress and you don't go along with his agenda, because a lot of you got elected because of him. So that's my criticism of Trump in this, is that he actually has not demanded that the budget be balanced, and he could. Let's go to Roger in St. Charles. Where are you at with Musk and Trump and everything in between?
Hi, I'm on the side of Donald, because I don't believe that you're accurate in saying that Trump could just say balance the budget and get it passed, because it's so tenuous a margin in the House. But I do have a suggestion that could help the Senate and Donald get things passed, and that is to baby boom the debt. I believe that if we provide an incentive, there are $43 trillion of pre-tax money in accounts across the United States. Many of those dollars are in baby boom generation accounts that will soon or are now required to do RMDs. If there was an incentive put in the big, beautiful bill to advance a conversion or distribution in respect of the RMDs, or even if the incentive was strong enough, it could incentivize people not yet at retirement, but getting close. We could potentially bring trillions of dollars forward to balance the budget by those conversions and distributions.
Roger, I like the creativity. Isn't that kind of a one-time boom, though? You get people to retire once, and then you kind of back where you were?
Well, no, I don't believe so. I don't believe so, because if you change the debt profile of the United States, we get our AAA bond rating back. Interest rates on our bonds would go down. We would potentially influence it. By the way, with $43 trillion, it's conceivable you could get $3, $5, $10 trillion worth of debt reduction now, like this year.
Yeah.
There's also an idea of a Trump MAGA bond, which could be a special 3-year incentive instead of the 5-year Roth conversion, or some other incentive that's creatively structured. And I'd love to help. I've tried to get this message to Donald and Elon. I've sent it to them. But I love the fact that I'm able to tell you this.
Well, Roger, Brad's on vacation, but I will call him and tell him to make a reel out of this call, and then we will send it to the White House.
I love it. Thank you so much. To change the game. And by the way, this is selfish too, because I've had my mother and brother die, and I've got RMDs to deal with. And I do it all at once if I could get a break on doing so. Now, the other thing is that the tariffs potentially complicate that matter, because if tariffs replace a lot of income taxes, the whole tax incentive structure is going to change. So there's some dynamics. Donald's doing a great job. By the way, I do respect Elon, but I think his ego and his billions of dollars are getting in his way. And Trump's points on the factors that have contributed are real.
Well,
thank you so much for letting me call.
Roger, thank you so much for the creative proposal. I like the outside the box thinking there. One thing that you know is an argument in your favor, Roger, is that if we do some sort of, Howard Lutnick, I'm a big fan of the guy. I'm a big fan of his proposals too, because he thinks outside the box too. He's talking about trying to get us sometime, I think probably next year. I don't think this will happen this year. Into a place where we've got an understanding of what the tariffs are bringing in, and that could offset the income tax for people making under $200,000. That's another argument for doing something right now that would be kind of a stimulus to get people to retire and bring more money into the federal government quickly. Right now, instead of next year, if we're dealing with income tax. You're right, Roger. Thank you for the call. Let's talk to Mark from Golden Eagle, Illinois. Hi, Mark.
Hey, what's going on, Ryan?
What do you think about this whole spat between Trump and Musk?
It's childish, but I think it's also planned. Musk, Tesla stock was tanking when he was siding with Trump. And I think that by him breaking away from Trump and focusing more on Tesla and him feuding with Trump is actually raising his stock up now. But also when it goes to the big, beautiful bill, I think it's a scam. I think it goes back to those days where Nancy Pelosi said we have to pass the bill to know what's in it. And I think this is the Republicans' version of that. And it's just the same. It's two wings of the same bird, kind of mentality. And that's what our government's pretty much become.
Yeah, the uniparty, right?
Yeah. So, I don't think it. You do have some of those representatives like Massey and Chip Roy and stuff who eventually end up caving in, but at the same time, they're actually bringing up good points. And even Rand Paul. And, that's kind of my libertarian mindset, was siding with them guys and actually bucking the system. And Trump's now part of the system. And, and I voted for the guy. I voted for the guy 3 times. And I reluctantly, but, it's the lesser of two evils, and either way you look at it, it's the same evil.
Mark, I hope you're wrong about that, and I think you probably hope you're wrong that Trump is not part of the system, because that's one of the reasons that you vote for the guy, is that he's going to go in there and basically brass knuckle the whole thing, knock stuff down, and so far he's been doing that. I think it's just this point, and tell me if I'm wrong here about what you're saying, but it's just this point about the deficit that really is the sticking point for me, because I like a lot of what's in his bill.
I like a lot of what's in it, but at the same time, it's increasing your debt, and our debt, our credit rating just got downgraded. So why are you increasing your debt? That's like me maxing out a credit card and going out and getting another credit card with the same amount of debt. Mark, it just doesn't work. Let
me ask you this. I think, did we lose you, Mark? Oh, sorry. Here we go, Mark. Mark, before we let you go here, I don't hope we didn't lose you there. Let me ask you this. If you think this was planned, because I've seen a lot of people talking about this, like, this was something that they got together and said, let's fight and do this so that we can accomplish something, and you said with Elon, it would be, it would affect his stock price. It would get him kind of out of the White House and get him back into the private sector. And that's good for him. How does this benefit Trump if this was planned?
No matter what Trump does, like he says, he can cure cancer, and they'll still be against him. It's not benefiting Trump. It's more or less Musk taking a step back to boost his stock. And I think he's told Trump that, hey, I'm going to buck you here. Let's fight, have it out, whatever. And I think there is some truth to what Musk is saying. But I think there's a lot of what Musk is saying as far as you brought me in to do this, and yet you still increase the spending. It doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, and I think Trump respects that, but he's like, hey, my stocks are tanking and I need to do something, so I need to step away here. That's just my conspiracy theory and my tinfoil hat coming on.
Well, Trump will definitely do just about anything to be the headline. I'll agree with you on that. Mark, thank you so much for the call, man.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
All right, take care. One more thing, before we went into this segment, I said, we had the phone accidentally blocked at the beginning of it. And that's because Ethan and I were just sitting here talking. And actually, we're talking about this clip from Charlie Kirk. I'm going to play this.
We wish that we had more cuts. This bill still cuts hundreds of billions of dollars, $1.6 trillion total, but we only have a 3-seat majority in the House of Representatives. So you're starting to see a little bit of a collision.
Okay, so at the beginning, in the last segment, I was talking about the national debt versus the deficit. And when we were playing, or we were talking about that clip that Ethan cut for me today, Ethan, you had a question about it. And I just real quick, I think, ask that question again, because I want to clarify if people are misunderstanding what we're saying.
Yeah, I was just confused because I've heard people say that, this adds to the deficit, it adds to the national debt, but then I'm hearing Charlie Kirk saying that trillions are still being cut in the midst of this bill, and I was just confused on, how can those two be true at the same time?
Thank you for repeating it, because I think that's a great question. Charlie Kirk is right, and actually congressional Republicans are right. They are actually reducing the amount of debt that's happening. So right now, without the big, beautiful bill, we're adding about $2 trillion to the national debt every year. That's $2 trillion in deficit. What the big, beautiful bill does is it reduces that to about $500 billion. So you're still not balancing it, but you're not adding as much as quickly as you were. So he's right. They have cut a lot, but they haven't cut it down to net zero.
Right. Okay.
Which ultimately always has been in my lifetime a major conservative principle, that we would get rid of the national debt. Well, we're not even talking about getting rid of the national debt. We won't even balance the budget now. Mm-hmm. So that's why, to me, this is the biggest issue. It's why Elon Musk has thrown down the gauntlet and said, enough's enough. This is a big enough issue that we have to deal with it. His quote constantly that he said, I don't know if he said it in the last couple of days, is that if the ship of America sinks, we all sink. And this is the kind of stuff he's talking about. If the money, if the investment that you're trying to make, I mean, the tariffs, all that stuff, but if your currency doesn't hold its value, then everybody's going down. And unfortunately, because we're America, it's not just Americans that would go down. I care most about Americans because I am one. But the whole world would fall if America falls. All ships will be affected. The ship of America sinks. Everybody sinks. All right, let's take a short break. Thanks for the calls. Appreciate that. The YouTube live chat poll today, it's based on this. Should conservatives take sides in Musk versus Trump? Yes, balance the budget. Yes, pass the president's agenda. Or no, we shouldn't take sides at all. Lots of people weighing in online. You're free to do that as well. You can find us on YouTube, streaming live today, and answer that question. Coming up next with Ethan, it's the be or not the be.
I see my red door, I must have it into black.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show. Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
Stewart's American Mortgage and the Bagel Loan, 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. When you are looking to buy a home, there are things you can do to become a competitive buyer. And the smartest thing you can do is right now, make that initial phone call or send that initial text message to my friend Stewie and talk to him about a bagel loan. The bagel loan is going to position you greatly for the opportunity to be a very competitive buyer. You're going to pay $0 in closing costs. That's going to save money for you, put money in your pocket that you can reinvest into putting it into your offer on the home, or maybe improving the home yourself and not having to ask for concessions. When you get pre-approved with Stewie, you can then generate your own pre-approval letters on his website so that you don't have to go through a middleman to take care of that. And he can close in less than 2 weeks. You want to be a competitive buyer and get the best deal for yourself? Well, it's called the Bagel Loan, and it's only at Stewart's American Mortgage. 314-324-4440. 314-324-4440. Google the Bagel Loan, NMLS number 226715.
People ask me, Mulchman, what's your secret? Well, it's Hanson's Premium Compost. It's nutrient-packed and makes your plants grow stronger than ever. Without it, I'd just be a regular guy with some dirt. So get your garden in shape this spring with Hanson's Compost. Trust me, I'm the Mulchman. Check us out at hansonstree.com.
Yow! Start your summer with a weekend showdown. Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Dodgers roll into Busch Stadium June 6th through the 8th. Be there Friday for a cool new promo. The first ever Cardinals neck fan. Perfect for hot game days. Then on Sunday, young fans 15 and under take home a Rawlings Kids Glove. It's a weekend of big matchups and big giveaways. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Mason Wynn, St. Louis Cardinals, for the loot.
Hey parents, looking for something fun and unforgettable to do with the kids? Bring the whole family to a Cardinals game at Busch Stadium. From kid-friendly activities and giveaways to awesome promotions like Kids Run the Bases. Your little ones will have a blast, and so will you. Check out Family Sundays, presented by Smithfield, where select tickets include a free jumbo hot dog and soda. There's nothing like sharing the magic of Cardinals baseball together. Make your memories this summer at Busch Stadium. Tickets are available at cardinals.com.
Mizzou football is here to stay. After an undefeated home season and a second straight 10-win year, the Tigers are looking for more in 2025.
Eli and the boys have done it again.
With a top 10 transfer portal class and a strong home schedule highlighted by Kansas, Alabama, South Carolina, and Texas A&M, you don't want to miss out. Get your spot in line by joining the season ticket waitlist at mutigers.com/FB waitlist. MIZ.
Today's YouTube live chat poll: should conservatives take sides in Musk versus Trump? The options: yes, balance the budget, which obviously, kind of backs Elon. Yes, pass the president's agenda. I think you can get whose side that's on. Or just no overall. You should not take sides in this. That is today's YouTube live chat poll. We've been going through some of the answers here early on in the show, and we will be sharing the results of that poll later on in the show towards later in the 2 o'clock hour. The time 12:45. The time check, as always, sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
The Mark Reardon Show.
Friday afternoon, as the war rages on between Elon and President Trump, we're going to talk about it on the Reardon Roundtable. Jane Duker on the panel, the mayor of Eureka, Sean Flower, former state senator Jeff Smith. It all starts at 3.
The Mark Reardon Show, weekdays from 3 to 6.
On a cloudy day, when it's cold outside, I've got the month of May. I guess you say, what can make me feel this way, my girl, my girl, my girl. Talking about.
So I don't know if you like supernatural stories. I love them. Anytime I come across one that's cool and, can be sort of verified, because that's the key with all these things is, can you verify them? A lot of times can you verify the person? Because you can't really, determine whether an angel visited somebody or not, like scientifically. How do I prove that? But you can prove a lot of stuff around it. And I've got a couple stories that I want to share with you in the 2 o'clock hour. So come back at 2 o'clock if you would like to hear a couple of those. I did a couple yesterday. It's actually, I'll just tell you what it is. It's more of those celebrities who cheated death and had death experiences. I just find it fascinating. And I told you the one yesterday about Jeremy Renner and Jamie Foxx. Well, I've also got, let me see. This is the longest tease in history.
I'm so excited.
Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue has a really good one. Tracy Morgan has a really good one. And then Al Pacino and Burt Reynolds are in there. Theirs aren't as good, but I'll share a couple of those really good ones. Anyway, it's time for the B or not the B.
The B or not the B.
As presented by Ethan.
I like the days where I get to host the B or not the B because I don't have to hear my stupid intro.
Your disappointed
Otherwise,
intro.
yeah, my disappointed intro, which I've yesterday I really feel like I let it rip. I let it loose on you.
You let it rip?
Like, stupid mouth and your stupid face. a lot of the word stupid being thrown your way.
Yeah, you did call me stupid a lot, but then you also just said you let it rip on air, so
it's okay. It's okay. Okay, so the B or not the B, this segment is where you, the listener, have to decide if the article title and description that I'm reading is real or satire from the Babylon Bee. So we'll go ahead and get started with this one. President Trump torches Tesla dealership.
I saw this one and I thought, you know what? That's probably not too far off from the truth, but that's the B.
It is the B. Firefighters were called to the scene after several eyewitnesses claimed to have seen President Trump setting fire to a local Tesla dealership this morning. The event seems to coincide with a bitter public falling out between Trump and Musk over a spending bill currently moving through Congress. I thought we were friends, Elon. What happened to us? President Trump reportedly cried as he lobbed a Molotov cocktail into a windshield of a 2025 Tesla Model 3. I never liked Teslas. I always thought they were third-rate cars anyway. And everything in them is computer. I hate computers. Many people don't know that, but I actually hate them. They're terrible, frankly.
As with a lot of Babylon Bee stories, the picture of that's really funny.
It is.
It's his back.
This is the beauty of
looking
AI.
at this giant fire.
He's chucking a Molotov cocktail.
Oh, is he throwing it? I couldn't remember.
It's on fire, but he is in the midst of chucking it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I love the AI that they use, but I also and I wish I would have had more time for this. These quotes, especially from Trump specifically in these articles, I love to throw them into AI and have them actually telling you that he said it. Those ones are the funniest with AI and how good it is these days. They sound pretty real with Trump specifically. So, okay, on to the next one here. Hamas agrees to surrender if Europe will just take Greta Thunberg back.
That's the B. You had me until Greta Thunberg.
It is indeed the B. The tables were turned on the infamous terrorist organization today, with horrified Hamas agreeing to a full and unconditional surrender to Israel if Europe would agree to take Greta Thunberg back. The well-known left-wing activist was said to be en route to Gaza by sea to make her presence felt in peace negotiations between the two warring sides, leaving Hamas scrambling to do whatever was necessary to stave off her arrival. Please don't let it happen. We will do whatever it takes to keep her away, said Hamas spokes-terrorist Abu Muhammad Zahir.
I saw real reports of her possibly supporting Palestine.
Yes.
But was there any truth to her traveling there?
Not that I have seen.
Okay, I didn't think so.
I saw a clip that went pretty viral of her saying F Israel, I think is what it said. Which it's kind of funny thinking of young Greta Thunberg and how shy and nervous she was. Remember that video of her even in the same room as President Trump, and she hid behind someone?
It was kind of strange because she's when you see somebody behind a camera, you don't really have any idea of how tall or short they are.
Mm-hmm.
President Trump is very tall. Elon Musk is too, actually. Scott Bessent is too. When you see them next to somebody else is when you realize how tall or short they are. And that was a weird clip. And I think it was accidental that Trump happened to be walking through a mezzanine at the same time as Greta Thunberg was walking out of one.
Yeah.
And you saw the difference in the height between those two.
At that point, she was probably 12?
Well, this wasn't that long. This was during the campaign season. This was 2023.
I'm thinking of a different video then. Okay.
This was only a couple years ago. And she actually looked mad at him, probably because she hates him in general, but also because all the press was there to see him.
Yeah.
And I think she was doing something too, and nobody was following her at all.
I think it's funny in general how the view of who she is kind of changed, because originally it was this young girl who, you almost kind of feel bad for a little bit. It's like, okay, this is ridiculous. She's clearly, someone is sharing this with her, and she'd done some research, I'm sure. And now it's like, okay, she's old enough to where it's like, okay, just what are you doing?
Yeah,
dude?
She's an adult now. She's 21 or something,
Yeah.
and she's got a mega empire. She
does.
has.
Which, hey, good for her. In that
she makes
sense.
a lot of money. She does a lot of speaking engagements. I would love to look up her net worth because it's significant.
On to the next one here. CNN commentator tells Scott Jennings that Americans should pay for the health care of undocumented citizens.
That's real.
Unfortunately, this is real. And, Scott Jennings on CNN going on with Abby Phillip. I believe this was last night. And we have a small little clip from it here.
Everyone deserves health care.
Even illegals?
Every single person in the world deserves
Just for the
healthcare.
record, as a candidate, you're for illegal aliens getting Medicaid.
I think everyone in the world deserves
That's a yes.
healthcare.
That's a yes.
I'm such a
That's a
modest-
Democratic
it
position.
is a yes, but yeah,
It's a Democratic
everyone in the
position.
world
Illegal
deserves
aliens should
healthcare.
get Medicaid.
But I mean,
How is it controversial?
But how is it controversial?
How is it controversial if they don't want someone to die in the hospital because they can't afford
Who
it?
do you think pays for healthcare when undocumented people show up at a hospital?
Who pays for that?
We all pay for it.
Exactly.
Including
we all
undocumented
pay
people
for
because
it.
they actually contribute.
That's the point. That's the point.
So anyway, you get the picture there of
That's
of
amazing.
The round table arguing, and that was actually an Illinois congressional candidate. I'm blanking on her name. Kat Abu Ghazala was that her name? That he initially asked that question to, and then Bakari Sellers was there at the end.
She's running Chicago. She's going to win regardless.
She's a lock, right? So
unbelievable.
It's just it's amazing.
Well, that's
There's
the people voting.
almost no words
for your benefits in Illinois. That's what they spend on.
They clearly care. They care, Ryan.
It's amazing to me. Just real quick side point. Whenever the debate is we should have universal health care, I can't stand it. And it's become so commonplace that I almost forget what we're talking about. But the word health care is so inappropriate in that context. But because what they're talking about is health insurance. You're not talking about health care. If you or anybody shows up at a hospital, they can't refuse you treatment. So we actually already have universal health care.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of who's paying for it. That's health insurance, not health care. We already have universal health care.
Well said, Ryan Wiggins. Okay, we have time for at least one more here, and I had to get a sports one in, Ryan. Rockies rewarded for 10th win with pizza party at Chuck E. Cheese.
That's the B.
That is the B indeed.
Have they really only won 10 games?
They just won their 10th game. They had prior to the weekend, they had won 9, and they swept the Miami Marlins. So now at last I checked, they're at 12.
Can we call this the Wiggins curse? I went to Coors Field right at the end of last season.
It may very well be.
And
yes, we can call this the Wiggins curse.
And I said, I hope this team never wins again. When I was there.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Maybe I said that. I probably did.
It's a pretty intense thing to wish upon an entire city. It is Denver, though. So here, I'll read this real quick. Staff at a local Colorado Chuck E. Cheese were recently overrun by a horde of whooping, excited Rockies players eager to celebrate their team's 10th win. According to Linda Gansey, who works at the Chuck E. Cheese, the Rockies had a grand old time winning tickets and shouting, "We got 10! We got 10! Our coaching staff would never let us do stuff like this," said Rockies hitter Hunter Goodman. "They've always told us we could have a pizza party at Chuck E. Cheese as soon as we get 10 wins, but I can't believe we actually did it."
Look, we joke, but Chuck E. Cheese is a fun place.
They are on pace for the worst season in Major League Baseball history.
Oh no, they're doing terrible. I'm just saying Chuck E. Cheese is fun.
And I was saying something completely.
Chuck E. Cheese is a fun place. That's the only point that I want anybody to take away from this segment. All right, thanks. Good job, Ethan. You're running the board. You're doing all the sound at the same time.
I don't know how to respond to that.
I'm amazed. All right, come right back. We're gonna do What Did I Miss?
Civia Law is there to help you through life's transitions. That means when you need assistance with your legal needs, especially in the areas of estate planning and elder law, Todd Civia and the staff at Civia Law is there to make that transition wonderful. 833-995-WILL, 833-995-WILL. There's so much peace of mind that comes through planning, and Civia Law can help you do that. They will help you with your wills, trusts, your powers of attorney, and they have a 2-week turnaround for completed documents from that initial sit-down appointment. And if you call Todd Civia and the staff at Civia Law on both sides of the river at 833-995-WILL right now, they are giving the first 10 listeners, after this ad airs, they're giving the first 10 listeners a free strategy session. That's a $300 value for you. 833-995-WILL. Call Todd Civia and Civia Law today. They have 7 locations across the Illinois and Missouri area to serve you best. 833-995-WILL. Find them online at civialaw.com.
Hi, this is Tammy Kershaw with Retirement Advisory Group.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw. As a family business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. What if it were possible to protect you from market downturns without having to make an emotional decision to buy or sell? What if you could take advantage of a strategy that would automatically take you out of harm's way during the bad years and position you for the growth opportunity during the good years?
The secret is linking safely to the market without putting your principal at risk. By linking to the market instead of owning the market, you can participate safely on autopilot and lock in your gains without creating a taxable event. Go online to retirementkey.com for a no-obligation retirement review, and we'll teach you the strategy that has helped our clients retire with confidence for the past 39 years. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. So go online to retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. Waking up every day, lifting him from the bed to the wheelchair to the car to get him to therapy on time, it's no small task between the doctors and the diagnosis, but nothing can disable this love. This is my big brother, my hero. He's part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. See, there's no time for tired. This starts again tomorrow. He'll be waiting for me. I wake up for him. I know he needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community, or call 877-333-5885. Caregiving Resource Center. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
President's not budging. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. After a day of public feuding with Elon Musk, President Trump just had a phone call with Fox's Bret Baier.
And told him this, that he is not interested in talking to Elon. He is not worried about any of these third-party threats. Elon's been on X talking about perhaps we should create a third party. And Trump also pointed to some favorable polling that shows that there is strong support for him across America, and also amongst Republicans on Capitol Hill. Of course, this all started because of the big, beautiful bill, and Elon is still trying to kill that. And here's a direct quote from the president this afternoon. He says, Elon's totally lost it.
Fox's Aisha Hasni at the White House, where a red Tesla purchased by the president in March is now expected to be given away or sold. Last night, Musk posting that he will not decommission the Dragon spacecraft after threatening to when the president threatened to cancel government contracts. Investigators in Michigan say an attack was planned at a charter school graduation this week, and they're still looking for one of the suspects.
A 19-year-old is in custody, and a 20-year-old man is on the run after a mass shooting was averted at Tuesday's Arts and Technology Academy graduation in Pontiac, Michigan, just north of Detroit. When deputies responded to a call of a fight during the event, they found weapons stashed under cars in the parking lot. Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard says a family member told investigators about a threatening Snapchat message.
And when you combine that with the post that had been seen that someone planned to shoot up this graduation, in our business, we call that a clue.
The loaded weapons each had a 40-round magazine.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers, those suspects were not enrolled at the school. In Colorado, the Boulder terror attack suspect due in federal court later today facing a hate crime charge a day after appearing in state court. America is listening to Fox News.
No one wants to leave behind stress for their family. That's why a trust or a will is so important. Without one, your assets might go to the wrong people or leave out loved ones. Also, probate is long, expensive, and often avoidable with a revocable trust. Trustandwill.com makes it simple to create a personalized estate plan. A trust or will provides clarity and peace of mind. Get 20% off on your estate plan documents by visiting trustandwill.com/radio.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in experience and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood, St. Louis. CordellCordell.com.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Unsettled continues to be the main word going through our Friday afternoon. Periods of showers and a couple of thunderstorms. The best focus for some isolated severe weather will be St. Louis South, 79. Everything kind of fades away quickly this evening, 65. Saturday, a mix of clouds and sunshine. Still a chance of a couple of showers, but lots of dry time, 80. Even more dry time on Sunday, warmer, 86. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Man, it's weird listening to that forecast and saying, yeah, but summer's here. I mean, we're past Memorial Day. I was actually reminded that summer is here by walking through Schnucks just yesterday, picked up a bottle of Andrea's sauce. They have Andrea's sauce kind of on display because it's summer and summer is grilling. So if you're not enjoying this weather yet, that's a great way to do it. whether you've been on vacation like we have and you're just kind of getting back into the swing of things, man, the evening, even when it's 90 degrees, the evenings in St. Louis summers are just so nice. Listen to a game or whatever you're going to do, but get outside and grill and enjoy Andrea's steak sauce. Just be a part of the ambience of St. Louis summers, and Andrea's steak sauce is very much a part of that, especially in our family. The smell alone, I'm like, oh yeah, summer's here. Love it. We use it all year, but summer is really the key time for it. So next time you're in a Schnucks or a Deerberg's or you're at a local butcher, they have them at those a lot because they know Andrea's steak sauce makes everything better. It makes everything easier. Really, no matter what protein you're going to cook, get a bottle of it and try it out, and then let me know what you think. I always appreciate when you go to the restaurant and you let me know that you went to @RadioWiggins on Twitter. But either way, Andrea's steak sauce, grab a bottle and let me know how you like it.
Hey, it's Tom Ackerman. Where do you go for your annual eye health examination? Ophthalmology Associates, of course. Doctors Greg Birdie and Ranjan Malhotra. Dr. Robert Bersati, he's the one I saw. Or Dr. Andrew Royer. They are available to you and are there to take care of all your vision needs at Ophthalmology Associates. They're on Manchester Road, a half mile west of 270. Your vision is their business at Ophthalmology Associates. In fact, many of their patients are doctors themselves. That's why they call themselves the doctors, Ophthalmology Associates. Are your eyes itchy and scratchy? It could be more than just allergies. They're the leaders in dry eye diagnosis and treatment. They're the leaders in LASIK and discussing those procedures. And if you're having difficulty reading or driving at night, you have glare from oncoming headlights, could be early signs of cataracts, and they can talk to you about multifocal lens implants. Ophthalmology Associates, youridoc.com.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's got your back. Contact ThrottleNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
Right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Oh, yeah, here's the moment you have been waiting for.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom.
Andy's out. Brian and Brad are in.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
This is the Mannie Frey Show.
Everything is Trump Musk today. I'm even getting texts from people about it, like, oh, I can't wait to listen because they're so engaged in the Trump-Musk battle. We are talking about it, of course. We've been talking about the first hour. The YouTube live chat poll today is, again, yesterday's was too, but today's is more specifically to should we be taking sides? That's the question. Should conservatives take sides in Musk versus Trump? Yes, balance the budget. Yes, pass the president's agenda. That's kind of Musk versus Trump. Or no, and a lot of you are saying no. I thought no might actually win this poll, but I haven't peeked at the results yet. So let us know what you think about that topic. That's today's YouTube live chat poll. Taking a little bit of a break from that topic, though, I want to read a story to you, and I'm going to read it in a little bit reverse order, because here's the thing about entertainment. You can't just come right out and give the lead. Okay, we're in news. That's exactly what you're supposed to. But I'm not going to do it that way this time. You're supposed to read the headline and then, okay, now here's the details. Well, I'm going to do it in reverse. I'm going to kind of walk you through this story and then get to why it's so important. This comes from Yahoo News. There's a news story, and you may have seen it. It's about a woman named Marlene Ames, who worked for the Ohio Department of Youth Services for more than 20 years. The Supreme Court has had to weigh in on a case regarding Marlene Ames and workplace discrimination. And the way that the court did it, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0. You rarely see that, especially in cases like this that seem kind of divisive. I think everybody was surprised that they ruled 9-0 in favor of Marlene Ames, who worked for the Ohio Department of Youth Services. And so it wasn't that all of them agreed on all the details. So each of them, you would issue individual opinions. Justice Clarence Thomas noted in a separate opinion that some of the country's largest and most prestigious employers have overtly discriminated against those they deem members of so-called majority groups. Do you see where this is headed yet? Thomas, joined by Justice Neil Gorsuch, cited a brief filed by America First Legal, a conservative group founded by Trump aide Stephen Miller, to assert that American employers have long been obsessed with diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Think about your job. Has this come up at your job? I can almost guarantee that it has. In your employment, you've had to do something regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion at your job. Initiatives and affirmative action plans. 2 years ago, here's a little bit of background for you. 2 years ago, the court's conservative majority outlawed consideration of race in university admissions. Since taking office in January, been kind of a tide change here, President Donald Trump has ordered an end to DEI policies in federal government and has sought to end government support for DEI programs elsewhere. Some of the new administration's anti-DEI initiatives have been temporarily blocked in federal court. You know about that. We've been reporting on it. Federal agencies, though, have moved quickly to implement Trump's vision and shift priorities to reflect that mission, including rooting out discrimination against members of, yes, not just minority groups, but majority groups. The head, and this is new, the head of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, who is now a Trump appointee, is responsible for enforcing workplace anti-discrimination laws. But they, at this agency now under Trump, have pivoted the agency to focus on eliminating all forms of race discrimination, including those stemming from DEI initiatives. You like that? I love it. At the same time, acting chair Andrea Lucas has moved to deprioritize cases involving discrimination against transgender workers, saying she rejects the idea that civil rights exist solely to remedy harms against certain groups. So instead of having protected class groups, they're kind of equally applying these laws to everyone and not saying any one group is more important than another. Now, back to this case. This is why I wanted to unfold it this way. So Ketanji Brown Jackson or Sotomayor, one of those two, are the far leftist jurors on the Supreme Court. Kagan is there too, but she seems like she kind of respects the law in ways that Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson do not. They just kind of find the leftist way and they just jump right in the water. Well, Ketanji Brown Jackson, even on this one, her opinion doesn't mention DEI directly, but she does focus on Ames' contention that she was, and here's the specifics of the case, Ames was passed over for promotion and then demoted because she's straight, because she's heterosexual. Both the job she sought and the one she held were given to LGBTQ people. And this is an angle in which we do not discuss very often, but we really should. DEI actually can create discrimination. And Trump and his Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, and this Supreme Court case in particular, which is unrelated to the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, are remedying that. It's very interesting to watch this happen. Because even when the liberal justices side with you, you go, okay, well then this is real. This isn't just a conservative push here. This is really happening and is being addressed. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 bars sex discrimination in the workplace. So you can't discriminate against somebody for being straight. A trial court and the 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against Ames, but then she took the appeal to the Supreme Court where she won 9-0. Now, if you're saying, Ryan, what does that mean in a broader sense? Well, I think you kind of got the idea, but we also now have a new precedent that has been set at the Supreme Court. And this is where the article actually starts. That's why I did it in reverse. A unanimous Supreme Court made it easier now Thursday to bring lawsuits over so-called reverse discrimination, siding with an Ohio woman who claims she didn't get a job and then was demoted because she's straight. The judge's decision affects lawsuits in 20 states and the District of Columbia, where until now courts had set a higher bar when members of a majority group, including those who are white and heterosexual, sue for discrimination under federal law. Did you catch that? Even Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote for the court that federal civil rights law draws no distinction between members of majority and minority groups. Until now, here's what this ruling did. It made it easier for people to have actual equality. That's a beautiful thing, because up until now, if you were part of a certain group, a certain protected group, and that would depend on what the case was, but you know what they would be, you actually got preferential treatment from courts under the 1964 Civil Rights Act because you were easier to discriminate against. Well, the Supreme Court just ruled 9-0 that that's all gone, that everybody needs to be treated equally, no matter what their sexual orientation, no matter what their gender, and no matter what their race. And that is great news, and it's happening without us really noticing. Really quickly, before we get to the end of this segment, I want to transition to a related story. Trump and the judges. Trump nominated a whole lot of judges in his first term. At this point in his first term, he had already nominated the Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, and he had already been confirmed. And a federal judge was already in the pipeline for a May approval. So he was moving fast. I think he ended up passing, let's see here, I wrote it down somewhere. 234 federal judges were confirmed under the first Trump administration. Now, I had to look up, and I can't believe it. It's almost as if they tried to do this on purpose. Did Joe Biden pass more federal judges or less than Donald Trump did? Now, remember, Donald Trump moved at a very fast pace in his first term. 234 federal judges. Joe Biden appointed 235. That had to be intentional, right? So it was one more. So he moved even faster than Trump did. So you'd think now with the Senate and with Trump in charge that he would be focusing on this again, but he actually hasn't nominated anybody yet. The Senate has been pretty tied up, but that has changed. During the last week or so, like since I've been gone, Trump made his first judicial nomination of his second term, naming Whitey Hermendorfer as his pick. That sounds like an old baseball coach, Ethan. Whitey Hermendorfer from the Blue Jays. The lawyer served under Tennessee's Republican Attorney General. So the reason this is significant is because Trump is now focusing on judges again. And I've been kind of wringing my hands going, they need to get on this. If they want to start passing judges again, they need to do it. The problem is that there are only 46 judicial vacancies to fill because Biden moved so fast that the vacancies just have not piled up as much as they were at the beginning of Trump's first term. If you recall, Mitch McConnell, to his great credit, stalled a lot of Obama's appointees in the hopes that they would get a Republican president in 2016, and they did. And so they passed a lot of judges. But Trump 2.0 is having a slower start here, according to Axios. There are only 46 judicial vacancies to fill compared to more than 100 at the start of his first term. So we are just getting started looking at all these things. Thought that was a good story to end on, considering the Supreme Court just had a 9-0 decision that almost nobody heard about. Let us know what you think, again, about the YouTube live chat poll. Should conservatives take sides in Musk versus Trump? We are keeping track of your comments as we go throughout the day today. It was wild yesterday, just briefly before we take a break. we had asked the question, who are you siding with, Musk and Trump, yesterday? Well, by the end of the show, that question had taken on completely different meaning because Musk had started at about 2:30 in our time, tweeting out all the stuff about the Epstein files. And he even made a claim that Trump's tariffs are going to cause a massive recession in the second half of this year. I mean, he was like gloves off. And Reardon came in at the end of our show and was like, dudes, are you guys watching this? And in the middle of the show, we got screens up all over the place. We're watching everything. We got multiple TV screens just so we're not missing anything. But I didn't have Elon Musk's Twitter open. So
That's where you went wrong.
I didn't know that had happened at about 2:30 yesterday. And Reardon's like, here we go. And I'm like, all right, I'm tuning in. And that's how I found out just about with everybody else. So that was yesterday's question. It's kind of today's too, but it's really asking, should conservatives take a side in Musk versus Trump? And everything's a little bit different today than it was yesterday. So let us know what you think. What did I miss? Coming up next. And then we got, like I said before, a really fun supernatural story, I guess. I think it's fun. I like talking about that stuff. That's coming up at 2 o'clock too. Stick around. What did I miss? Coming up next.
Right. You patriotic, slam fight, right, high feeling, pretty sight. It's the end of the world as we know it.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on X at Annie Frey Show.
End of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
At Berry Door and Window, we welcome you to a higher standard of customization and quality. And when I walked through their factory, their showroom, and everything, it is so obvious why people have been choosing Berry Door and Window for the very best in doors, windows, and garage doors for decades here in St. Louis. 56 years plus that Berry Door and Window has been answering the call for people who want the best, the quality, and a great customer experience to boot. When you work with Berry Door and Window, by calling 314-423-DOOR, that's 314-423-DOOR, you are going to be able to get customization like nowhere else. You're going to get a top quality product, high quality wood or vinyl windows that never compromise your dreams. And they have a strong 5-year window labor warranty. That matters for installation, of course. You want to make sure that you have somebody who you can trust to sell you a quality door and to install it as well. That's Berry Door and Window, 314-423-DOOR. 314-423-DOOR, berrydoorandwindow.com.
This is attorney Todd Nissenholtz of Kaufman Townsley. Victim of a car accident? Not choosing the best lawyer will cost you. But here's the good news. Since you don't pay unless we win, you can afford the very best. Kaufman Townsley. Call 314-500-5000.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is letting everyone know about great debt relief options now available to help people with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of your credit card debt. Get a free debt relief consultation when you call 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040.
The Diamond Shop, 20% off all watches, even Movado, 40% off all men's in-stock jewelry, plus 40% off all pearl jewelry and in-stock wedding bands. Continues until June 28th. 10% VIP, extra 10% off purchase. Not valid for watches through the month of June.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is hiring licensed journeymen. Don't have a journeyman license? Air Comfort Service will help you get it. Get guaranteed hours year-round and more. Apply online at aircomfortservice.com.
Chug-a-lug, chug-a-lug. Make you wanna holler, howdy-ho. Burns your tummy, don't you know?
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show. Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
Homemade and brought to school.
We determined a while back that Johnny Cash would be considered outlaw country. What is this?
I don't know. That's a Drew question. He did the music today. Normally that's my role, and that's something I take great pride in. I can't decide if Drew takes great pride in it or if he doesn't care at all.
Drew, if you have any opinion, feel free to chime in on what genre of music Chug-a-Lug is. Is it just old country?
I would guess so. We know that Annie is a fan of old country, and
I like old country too.
What Annie will do is she will send me music, like to put new music to put in her giant folder that she has. She'll send me pictures of stuff either driving in on the way to work or driving home from work, and she'll send me pictures of her Sirius XM or whatever it is. And this was one of the ones that she sent me recently. So I think, and normally I can tell when listening to it if she's thinking this would be a good one for Wiggins America. And I think that one was originally intended for Wiggins America.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I guess it's time to get to What Did I Miss?
What did I miss?
What did I miss?
Now, a lot of times this segment is just catching up on things that we had from the week that we didn't quite get to, but I was gone Monday through Wednesday. So some of this stuff I didn't even know existed.
Thank God, because if you would have been here, you definitely would have known more about it than me. The odds that you still know more about all of them than me are still pretty good.
I'm always usually plugged in. I try to unplug on vacation, but the Musk and Trump thing, man,
It's
Wednesday,
just
I
so
was
big.
like,
Some things are just so big that it's you just
it breaks
can't,
through.
You can't miss them. So one of the things that has been pretty big as of late, right, is all of this information coming out about Joe Biden, the cognitive decline that he experienced during his final, I was going to say originally I was going to say final months because it became extremely obvious where the media was really hitting hard on it after the debate. Yes, but we know there was examples of it and plenty of it prior to then. So now you've got Jake Tapper coming out with his book, and then yesterday we talked about Corinne Jean-Pierre and her releasing a book now. So Joe Concha, friend of the show, had some comments discussing the cover-up on it, and that's what we're going to start off with here.
Every time any Democrat, especially in this case a former president from the 90s, has to go on national television to deny that they knew anything about Joe Biden's brain turning to applesauce while he was president, that's another bad news cycle for the party, with many bad news cycles that have been happening over the last few weeks. This is a story that is not going away anytime today, tomorrow, next month, even next year. This was an attempted cover-up, a bad one at that, and apparently it included reportedly the chief of staff of the first lady in Jill Biden running the country, controlling that infamous auto pen. So when Democrats say, yeah, trust us, we're the party that can save democracy, they literally engaged in the most anti-democracy behavior we have ever seen as a country. And with unelected officials, no one's almost ever heard of making major decisions that impact the lives of every American. This will not be forgotten anytime soon. We need hearings. We need answers.
Yeah, this story is not going away. He's right. I played some Corinne Jean-Pierre clips yesterday in hosting of her talking about her book and, I'm independent now. I'm not even a Democrat. It's been like 3 months and she's already left the Democrat Party so that she could, I guess, put out this tell-all book. It's so weird. It's so gross to watch these people come out. I mean, Jake Tapper is in one category. He's media. He should have been digging into this. He kind of mildly was scraping the surface on it because you can find clips out there. You can of him asking, is Joe Biden, is he all together? They do exist. It's just that they were so few and far between that they weren't pushing that at all. And that's what you do as a journalist. You find out what's really going on here. Well, they don't care when it's a Democrat. But now with Corinne Jean-Pierre coming out with that book doesn't come out until October. So we're going to be talking about this all year. And then in October, once it actually comes out, then you'll have all the different quotes from it. And it'll be, if there's scandal in it, it'll be then. So not only leading up to it, but in October, we're going to still be talking about this subject. Trump, but the legal ramifications of a president who wasn't running anything could be huge, though.
I think it's the biggest scandal maybe in the last 100 years in this country. So when I hear that word, I think it has to be discussed because the fake news will try and hide it, and we can't do that.
Messy is the word, and I think it's interesting too. It feels like there's a lot of putting off going on right now in the Democratic Party.
Wasn't me.
Yeah, that's what it feels like right now. And honestly, for Democrats, everything that's going on right now with Trump and Elon is probably perfect for them because this had kind of been at the peak as far as attention right now, especially if you could argue that things were slowing down to a certain extent, a little bit compared to the first
No, it had been a couple
140
weeks.
days, right?
Yeah.
This had kind of been the big thing. Now you have this whole debacle with Trump and Elon. Democrats, I have to imagine right now, are probably saying, whew, okay, like we have a breather. At least we have to figure out the way to counter this.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So the next one, you know who someone else I've grown to really enjoy listening to at CNN is Harry Enten and some of the different polls that he is finding out. It's not just what he is saying. He's creative and he adds mixes a little bit of humor in with it, which I enjoy. But also it's the way in which the people that are hosting on CNN have to respond and having to see their faces.
They're standing next to his big screen,
sharing these things about how well Republicans are doing, or really how poorly the Democratic Party is doing. And he had a very interesting, a couple of interesting polls that he released here on the Democratic Party, right? Traditionally, right, being the party that represented the middle class, no longer the case.
Which is the party of the middle class has been a huge advantage for Democrats. I have polling from NBC going all the way back since 1989 when Democrats had a 23-point advantage. 2016, a 17-point advantage. But by this decade, we already started seeing declines back in 2022 where you saw that Democrats led, but only by 4 points, well within the margin of error. And now in our latest CNN poll among registered voters, which is the party of the middle class, it is tied. This, I think, speaks to Democratic ills more than anything else. They have traditionally been the party of the middle class. No more. Donald Trump and the Republican Party have taken that mantle away, and now a key advantage for Democrats historically has gone adios amigos, and now there is no party that is the party of the middle class. Republicans have completely closed the gap, Kate.
That's from this week?
From Tuesday. It
Wow.
may have been Monday. It was early in the week.
Yeah, no, but I've heard him say similar things before. That's why I didn't know if that was a newer clip. Here's what I like about Harry Enten. That dude just loves numbers.
Yeah.
I also love numbers. Like on my weekend show, a lot of times I'll give lots of polls, when we're closer to elections, especially. And I'm just excited about sharing with you the data. And sometimes that data is not good for the person I want, but I like to share it because I think it gives you insights into where things are headed. Harry Enten seems like that to me. The thing about him is he'll share a poll like this and say, look, Democrats are no longer the party of working class voters. But then tomorrow, because it's CNN, I think he knows, tomorrow I got to do one that's pro-Democrat. So he'll come back with one that's not the opposite of this, but something that like,
Offsets
I
it a
said
bit.
that, but now let's look at this thing. Historically, Trump is unbelievably unpopular among this group, so he'll give one and then the other one, he'll kind of flip the coin on because it's CNN.
Yeah, I at least I respect some sort of neutrality in this, something that you would think you can't skew, which is the numbers. So I'll give them the credit on that. Last week there was a horrific attack that occurred out west, out in Colorado, I believe it was.
Yeah, Boulder.
In Boulder, where a group of Jewish people were attacked with Molotov cocktails. I think 15 people were injured, and I think a dog was injured.
So this was a planned attack, I assume.
I believe so.
This was a not just like we're just going to go somewhere and cause chaos. It was let's find Jewish people and hurt them.
Yep,
that's what this was, right?
Yeah,
because I was out of town. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, this was one of those things that kind of was big, but wasn't at the level of big, right? That this whole the Trump Elon thing is, and honestly, it's getting sad because we've had a couple of these anti-Semitic attacks in the last.
I mean, that's just
couple
pure
of weeks.
Violence.
It is, and here's the thing: is it's probably not getting the level of coverage that it deserves. It probably isn't because it's honestly with the way that these people were being treated on college campuses, and now it's starting to become a regular thing, which is really scary. But I give kudos to Patriots owner Robert Kraft, who called some of this out from mainstream media.
There's been 3 events that have happened that have really shook me up. What happened to Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania, what happened out in D.C. with a couple of young people who were just employees of the embassy in Washington, and then what happened yesterday in Boulder or a couple days ago. And people are afraid to call it what it really is. That gentleman you just had on, he called it anti-Semitism right from the start. And I'm very concerned that our political leaders and other people in the news area don't report it as blatant anti-Semitism. And, you know, we've let this go on, and it's happened at college campuses now for quite a long time. And we need people to speak up and call it for what it is.
I'm glad he's talking about that, because that's
Me
very
too.
true. That's very, very true. And in a position like he's in, he doesn't have to come out and say anything about that, but he is. I forget about the Josh Shapiro attack.
I don't even know what.
So
that was.
the governor, he's
Yeah.
a Democrat,
Mhm.
Governor of Pennsylvania.
They thought he was going to be the VP.
Yeah, he
right?
was the front runner, you could say. And you never really knew why he chose not to be a part of, or if he didn't choose, if they said you're
Sure.
not going to, don't know. A lot of people speculated that it was because he was Jewish and they were trying to win Michigan. There's a lot of Middle Eastern votes in Michigan that they were trying to grab. Nobody ever substantiated that. The most popular theory, and he's never said, the most popular theory is that he actually thought that Kamala was going to lose and didn't want to drag himself down. And that ended up being the right move if he's looking to run for president in a couple of years.
How negatively do people? I mean, I think people already had a view of what Tim Walz was, but boy, oh boy, I mean, it has to be so much worse now after the election, right?
But that attack against Josh Shapiro, you're saying you didn't even know it existed.
Correct.
So it happened, and this is probably a couple months ago now. It was not long ago. And it was just some crazy guy, and people were like, well, what's his motive? Because and this is where Robert Kraft is exactly right. The media, as usual, they're like, ooh, is this a right-wing crazy that attacked Democrat Governor Josh Shapiro? When it turned out to be, no, it was a crazy anti-Semite, the story went away. It's gross, but it's true. I mean, that's the environment that we live in.
What did
now.
do you know what happened or what? I know.
I mean, he was a crazy.
Specifics. Like, was it?
He was nuts. I don't know much more than that.
Okay.
They determined that the cause was that he hated the Jewish governor of
that's terrible,
of Pennsylvania, and it was not because of political party. It was because he was Jewish.
What makes it different than any sort of like attack on a culture or racial attack? What makes it different? Is anything?
The answer is nothing. If a certain group is targeted because of who they are, that's a hate crime.
Sure, yeah.
And you can debate whether things should be prosecuted as hate crimes or not. But that's what we call a hate crime, is that you determined, I hate this person so badly, not because of anything they've directly done to me, but just because of who they kind of are and what they represent. That's considered a hate crime because they're part of a group. But for whatever reason, the hate crimes that are being committed, like this one in Boulder, against Jews, just because they're Jews and on college campuses and all this stuff, it kind of just gets the blind eye. And you'll understand what I'm saying when I say this. I don't know that everybody listening will agree, but to me, there's a very spiritual component to that. There's, you know, biblically speaking, there's a lot, even in the New Testament, about Jewish people. And I always say, politics is downstream from culture, and that's very common that people say that, but culture is downstream from spirituality, morality. And to me, this falls right into that category. That he's just like, yeah, we don't like it, but we're not going to report on it. As Robert Kraft is saying with the media, you know, you kind of fall into a certain stream. And to me, it's like there's like spiritual motives to everything, and this would be among the same category.
So I believe also that the man that attacked these people with the Molotov cocktails, I believe, was an illegal immigrant, is what they
that's
came
true
down
too.
to.
Yeah, that's right.
So that adds a whole nother perspective of the whole conversation. And now there's been a lot of debate and conversation as to should the entire family be deported, because you know there's clearly some extreme radicalism that's going on, like within that family, I think is what they're beginning to find. I want to say that a judge like blocked it for now temporarily blocked the deportation
of the
that
family. Yes.
So once again,
please, somebody in the chat, wherever, let me know what the rationale you have for why that family should not be deported. I would really love to see it, because if it's like, well, they didn't commit the crime, they're here illegally. I will remind you, they're not only are they not citizens, they're not even here legally. They're not here with a green card, nothing. They're illegally in the country. Why should they remain in the country? Whether they're connected to this guy or not, that seems like almost irrelevant to the fact that they should be deported.
It's pretty telling of where we are right now. We have another one here. Scott Jennings was once again, we talked about him earlier on another CNN roundtable with a couple of people, Jamal Simmons, Debbie Dingle. I know you're a big fan of that last name.
She's my favorite.
And, they brought up, Scott Jennings brought up an interesting question, right? That those two were trying to fight off the argument for. And it's a question that a lot of we here on the show have discussed. A lot of Republicans have discussed and have, it's been a big reason as to why we believe that right now we have the upper hand is because the identity of the Democratic Party is in major question right now. And that's exactly what Scott Jennings is trying to explain and prove here in this clip.
I'll defend the Democrats. They are for things. Illegal aliens. You're for boys and girls sports. I mean, you are for things. And that's why you have such struggles right now in your party, because you're not for anything that's on the right side of any of the 80-20 issues that are driving this cultural divide in America. I think Westmore's actually a pretty talented communicator. The other person who spoke in South Carolina, Tim Walz, is this special mixture of extreme buffoonery and a mean spirit, which is a toxic brew. He is not the future of the Democratic Party. More is interesting, probably more interesting than some of the radicals you have out there, Crockett, AOC. I mean, those are the true leaders of your party right now, but it'd probably be better off replacing them.
That's not true, and I'm not going to even let you.
That's not true. And here's the thing: we're not.
Well, okay. I mean, I agree that the Democrat Party is in chaos right now. I think we underestimate what their potential is for next year's midterms, though.
Yeah,
I really do. These arguments get made a lot in saying that Republicans probably should hang on to the House. It's true. In theory, but theory doesn't vote, and turnout is what matters in midterm elections. And oddly, we're in a place now where the parties have shifted. We opened the segments by saying this with Harry Enton, saying the parties have shifted where the working class voter has become Republican. 20 years ago, that was not the case. Working class was like blue dog Democrat. Now that is a Republican voter typically, not entirely, but mostly. And who turns out for midterms? Activists, passionate and elderly people, especially, turn out for midterms. The average swing voter, which is a loose term, but you could apply that to working class. They don't turn out in big enough numbers in midterms or in special elections. So that's why you saw before Trump, Republicans would do really good in special elections and midterms, because you had more passionate people, you had older people that would turn out in those elections. But that is shifted now to where you see in special elections, Republicans do worse. And it's probably because of the working class shift that's happened, where you're kind of elites and you're more reliable, every vote, every election matters voters turn out more for Democrats now. So I just think we're looking at a midterm that might be kind of tough. Now, also buoy that by saying that Trump has raised a lot of money already for those midterms. And so that could change things too. He's looking at, by the time the midterms roll around, well, really by the time ad season rolls around, where you're spending money, that he will have raised $1 billion.
Wow.
And here's the thing, the swing districts in the House, they're less and less than there ever used to be. Again, 20 years ago, that used to be like during the 2010 shellacking that Republicans had with Obama. That was like 80 swing votes that your swing districts. Now that's like half. There's only about 40 swing districts now in the entire House. So even though you have 435 members in the U.S. House of Representatives, you really only have about 40 elections nationwide that decide the whole House.
One of the things that Elon Musk said in his many Twitter rants yesterday was he talked about how he was a huge reason why Donald Trump won in 2024. And I heard a comment made, I think it was on Fox Across America, saying that he wasn't referring to the amount of money donated, that Kamala Harris had put way more money into campaigning than the Republican side did. It was referring to how he was able to capture a certain group of voters, and in part of that, I think he was a part of like those podcasting, a lot of those outlets, and being very outspoken for Trump. And I'm curious if all of this fallout now we are super fresh. It is an open wound right now. Who knows? Maybe we look on this in a couple weeks, a couple of months, and things patch back together, and we're moving forward. Their relationship is in a better place. But I'm curious if there's going to be repercussions for Trump, for Republicans, specifically in the fallout of what Elon is now saying about Trump, about the Republican Party. That's kind of what my early immediate thought and questioning has been.
It's a good question. And I think the way that we will see, and really to me, the unfortunate thing that happened yesterday is that it moved from a budget debate into personal stuff. And that's where I was like, uh-oh, things have just gotten really nasty. They might need couples counseling now because that stuff,
mom and dad are fighting.
That stuff sticks. So yeah, maybe, I don't know that there's anybody who's such a Musk sycophant that they would care that much and say, oh, well, if he's not for Trump, then I'm not. It's more of like a cultural swell. It's more the podcast stuff like you're talking about. So I don't know if that'll make an impact, but thanks for bringing those for What Did I Miss? We will take a short break and be right back.
Heck, I'm just going on 15. But
This is the Annie Frey Show. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
Guys, it's time to take charge of your health with my friends at Victory Men's Health. Mark Cox here. I already love what they do at Victory. They do hormone optimization, sexual health, weight loss, even vitamin deficiencies. Now they're offering specialty cardiovascular testing and even early detection cancer screening. Visit them at one of their 4 great locations, now in Sunset Hills, Town and Country, O'Fallon, Missouri, and O'Fallon, Illinois. Tell them Mark Cox sent you. Go to victorymenshealth.com.
Hold up a sec. If I work today, why should I have to wait 2 weeks to get my money? With Earnin, you can access your pay as you work instead of waiting days and weeks for a paycheck. Get up to $150 a day with a max of $750 between paydays. No interest, no credit checks, and no mandatory fees. Because, hey, it's your money. Download the Earnin app now to get it and join millions of people making any day payday. That's EARNIN. Earnin is not a bank. Access limits are based on your earnings and risk factors available in select states. Expedited transfer is available for a fee. Terms and restrictions apply. Visit earnin.com for full details.
I always said for years to save my number in your phone so you don't forget. And here's why. Today, I was calling the office. So I mentioned the office number. I probably have said it, not to exaggerate, over 1,000 times. I called the office today and I dialed the wrong number. When it connected, it said number you call not in order, not in use, whatever they say that. Now I am freaking out. I'm a very small business owner and that's my lifeline. Very long story to try to make it shorter. And if Andrew can do this, I'm producing it. That's why I say save the number in your phone. Save it under Bart. That's with a B. You can save it under air conditioning. That's with an A. Or whatever helps you remember. Because if your memory is like mine, it's easy to forget. 314-293-2600. It's Bart with a B.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
You care about every detail, and so does Purina. Every ingredient in their pet food comes from trusted sources, and every ingredient has a purpose. Whether that purpose is to provide just the right nutrients your pet needs or a flavor they will love, Purina has over 250 recipes made without artificial flavors or preservatives for you to choose from. You're sure to find something both you and your pet will love. Learn more at Purina.com/Purina Cares.
Today's YouTube live chat poll: should conservatives take sides in Musk versus Trump? The 3 options: yes, balance the budget, which of course favors Elon; yes, pass the agenda of the president, we know who that favors; or just no in general, don't take sides. That is today's YouTube live chat poll. Going to be giving those results in just about an hour, so go to Annie Frey Show on YouTube and vote in the live chat. We've got plenty of great interaction going on right now over there. People sharing their opinions as they always do. So be sure to go and vote. Join that. I saw a second ago how many votes we got. We're at 160 right now. So let's see if we can bump those numbers up a little bit. 148 is the time. This time check sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
The Annie Frey Show YouTube live chat poll of the day is happening now. Tune in to the Annie Frey Show live stream. Vote and be a part of the conversation by typing in Annie Frey on YouTube. Subscribe and leave a comment. This is the Annie Frey Show. The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Back when I was in the dating pool, one of the jokes that we would make, this is kind of pre-internet, was that if you went out with a girl and she said something, and the reverse could be true, it's not just like for girls, but I was a guy, so that if you went out with somebody and you said, what are you really interested in? And they said, well, I really like music and I really like movies, that they were dull. Because everybody likes music and movies. It's like saying, I like breathing.
I like eating.
Yeah. So if somebody said, and at the time it was like, oh, I really like music. And then if you went one step further and they said, I really like all kinds of music, it was like, duh, that's what everybody likes now. No, nobody likes just 60s rock anymore. Everybody listens to everything. So it was like, oh, cool, let's dig a little deeper on that.
So what was your thing, Ryan? What was the thing that you enjoyed?
Oh gosh, I don't even know how I'd answer that question.
Too
when I was in
old
college.
to remember.
I like writing comedy. That's kind of weird, right?
You were doing that in college?
Yeah. I started doing that in high school. Started writing little things and passing them around in high school and seeing the reaction.
How did women respond to that?
Women didn't really react that well to that. They didn't know what to do with it.
Okay, all right. I would have taken the music.
But it did get me my wife, because I had this notebook that I would just write this random stuff in.
That's all that matters.
Thank you for that. And I don't know how it came up. Like, obviously I brought it somehow to a party. It was trying to get attention.
Okay.
But I don't know how we actually brought it into the conversation.
Wait, you took your writing material to a party?
Oh yeah. Now look, it's not like the 80s party around a pool where everybody's drinking out of a Solo cup. This is probably like at somebody's house in college and we went over there. And I was like,
what's the deal?
I might as well bring some material with me. But it's how I got my wife, I like to say, because one of the things in this notebook, every page of this notebook, I was trying to fill it out with something different. And it would be like bad names for a pope. And it would just have a list of 10 names like Chad, one of them probably would have been Bob. And then that's the current name of the Pope. But I mean, he's Pope Leo, but his name was Robert. But it was just random stuff that was like, I have no place or outlet for this. I'm just going to fill up a notebook and just see if I can fill up a notebook with random stuff. And so one of them was reasons I love Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Who?
He was the heartthrob on Home Improvement.
Oh,
in the 90s.
Okay.
And by the time I was writing this, I was in college. And so it was like the dumbest thing that a college guy could be writing in a notebook.
Right.
The reasons I love Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Is this the one you brought to your wife? I've been working on
And
something lately.
it only had 3 things, and one of them was cute. The other one was just a heart. And the third is signed my notebook or something like that. And my wife thought that was so funny.
It's a special kind of humor
that she and I didn't really connect at that party, but she always remembered me from that. And then later it got us talking because of that.
That's hilarious. So you pulled this out and you said,
I think you turned your mic off.
I did? Are you sure? Or
No.
did you not just turn your earbuds down?
I think I turned my headphones down. There you go.
So you at one point, you pulled this out and you said, hey, I got this, funny material I've been working on. And you had the confidence in it because it said cute and had a heart sign and said signed my notebook that was going to work.
Or signed my poster. Yeah, I thought, well, I didn't know what it was going to happen. It's just material. And I'm basically
You're testing it on people.
There's no audience for my notebook.
That's
so I might as well bring
funny.
it to this thing and see if anybody wants to get some laughs out of it.
It worked.
And it worked. So yeah, we ended up dating because we started talking later based on her seeing that. Anyway, the reason I even brought that up at all is because the old I love movies thing is actually kind of a question now. Like if somebody says, oh, I'm really into movies, that actually does say something about them now, because so many people don't. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. You're from a different generation than me.
Mm-hmm.
But the generation that you're in, and maybe even younger than you, Gen Alpha, they don't really watch movies, right? They just watch social media stuff.
Yep. I think it goes perfectly into this whole attention spans are just too short. Why go to a theater when you have it right in your lap, when you have it right in your pocket? I think those are a couple of huge reasons why, but my generation's attention span is just way too short to go unless it's like a Marvel movie or something like that, something they know that
those
is
big
gonna
franchises,
work, right? But like new stuff, just it feels like creators and producers and writers' backs are against the wall because they have new challenges they've never had before.
Yeah, they're just not making well, I should say they're only making massive budget stuff,
correct,
and not middle budget stuff.
Yes.
Matt Damon talked about that. He goes, look, for like 10 years, you could make a movie that you knew wasn't going to do great in theaters because it was going to do awesome on DVD.
Yes.
And now you don't
clip.
really have that anymore. And I brought this story. It just says that are the recent Disney cuts a canary in the coal mine for the industry? Because Disney has just cut 7,000 people from their entertainment stuff, their entertainment division, not from the theme parks and not from all that, but just from their movie making and all of the entertainment creative content world, because they just can't quite keep up. And they're trying to figure out, really, I mean, the more I watch streaming, the more I'm like, I don't know that streaming, even as it is, let alone TV, but streaming as it is right now is going to survive. There might be like the big name, maybe Disney, maybe Netflix will always have a place as like the premier content.
Sure.
And maybe premier content even starts to shift. Maybe you don't make a lot of movies anymore, and you just have a lot more 15-minute episodes of series and stuff. I could see that happening. But I just wondered what you thought about that, being from the generations kind of below mine. That do you see a future for movies even, really?
I think that what we just said, unless it is the massive franchises, you're going to continue to see less and less of the original
new ideas
in theaters, to where you're like, oh, that intrigues me, and actually you're going to go out and put the money up to support it.
Yeah, by the way, whenever people say, oh, I just hate, like, Hollywood has no new ideas. No, Hollywood has tons of new ideas. They can't get you to go to the theater to watch their new ideas, because they need existing brands for you to be familiar enough to really go see it. Oh, they're going to remake Beverly Hillbillies again. Well, it's because that's a thing and you're going to go see that. But if they make a movie about some hicks with no names, you're not interested in that, So goofy example, but interesting canary in the coal mine for the industry. We'll be right back. Talk about some of these supernatural stories.
Let's just face it, right? Your home should work for you, not against you. Hi, it's Kim. And if you've been dreaming of a new kitchen, bathroom, or a finished basement, now's the time to call Lakeside Renovation and Design. They're St. Louis's trusted experts in turning houses into dream homes. Just imagine this, a spa-like bathroom, maybe a chef-inspired kitchen, or how about a cozy basement perfect for some movie nights? Their team handles everything from design to installation, so you can just sit back and enjoy the process. Visit lakesidearty.com today to start your dream renovation.
Hey guys, it's Mark Bearden. If you're struggling with low energy, performance issues, or weight gain, Game Day Men's Health has got you covered with testosterone therapy, ED treatments, and more in all of a relaxed man cave environment. At Game Day, you'll get a free testosterone test and consultation, all in just 1 hour. Game Day is the premier men's health clinic with locations in Chesterfield, O'Fallon, Missouri, and Glen Carbon, Illinois. Visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com. That's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Get back in the game with Game Day Men's Health.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
When my wife and I got married after both graduating law school, we didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Ultima had to give me her gas card just to drive home. We never could have imagined that one day we would have the largest injury firm in the world and $25 billion in money collected and counting. As good Catholics, we had 4 children fast. They all work in the firm today. Our family protecting yours. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan, but our greatest gift was years away, grandchildren. Today we have 6 and counting. It's the greatest joy that we have ever experienced. I think about them all day long. Our family promises to protect your family should you need us. Call us. It's easy. Visit forthepeople.com and make sure you hug your grandchildren. God's final gift to us. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
Back to the bargaining table. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. President Trump just announcing that U.S. and Chinese officials will meet Monday in London, a day after the president spoke with China's President Xi, saying afterward the trade talks would resume. President Trump's relationship with Elon Musk still on the rocks after their public feuding yesterday.
Fox News is told Elon Musk was wearing thin on President Trump and the White House for about a month. The president is planning to either give away or sell the Tesla that currently sits in a parking lot near the Oval Office.
Fox's Ryan Schmelz is at the White House. The president purchased that Tesla in March in a show of support when Teslas were being attacked as Musk led Doge cost-cutting efforts. The president telling Fox's Brett Baer today that Elon's totally lost it. Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty in the deadly shooting at Florida State.
The 20-year-old man police say killed 2 people and injured 6 others at Florida State University in April could now be put to death for his alleged crimes. Prosecutors in Tallahassee intend to seek capital punishment for accused gunman Phoenix Eichner. A judge already ordered him held with no bond on murder and attempted murder charges. While a specific motive for the shooting remains unclear, investigators say Eichner was known for espousing extremist beliefs. Eichner has already pleaded not guilty.
Fox's Evan Brown. One suspect in custody, another on the run after investigators in Michigan say a mass shooting was averted at a charter school graduation this week in Pontiac, north of Detroit.
They had been seen putting packages under cars in the parking lot and ultimately left the scene.
Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard says weapons were found in the packages, and deputies got a tip about a social media post on a mass shooting plot. A 19-year-old is in custody. The suspect still at large is 20. America is listening to Fox News.
No one wants to leave behind stress for their family. That's why a trust or a will is so important. Without one, your assets might go to the wrong people or leave out loved ones. Also, probate is long, expensive, and often avoidable with a revocable trust. Trustandwill.com makes it simple to create a personalized estate plan. A trust or will provides clarity and peace of mind. Get 20% off on your estate plan documents by visiting trustandwill.com/radio.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in experience and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood, St. Louis. CordellCordell.com.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Unsettled continues to be the main word going through our Friday afternoon. Periods of showers and a couple of thunderstorms. The best focus for some isolated severe weather will be St. Louis South, 79. Everything kind of fades away quickly this evening, 65. Saturday, a mix of clouds and sunshine. Still a chance of a couple of showers, but lots of dry time, 80. Even more dry time on Sunday, warmer, 86. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Hey, if you're nearing retirement and you're thinking, good grief, I've worked a lot, I've saved a lot, I certainly have sacrificed a lot, I sure hope that everything I've done to prepare for my retirement is enough. That's a scary proposition when you don't know the answer. But I've got the answer for you, or at least I have the people who have that answer for you. It's the folks at the Retirement Advisory Group. Contact Thomas Helbig, Bob and Tammy Kershaw at the Retirement Advisory Group by calling 314-993-9494. That's 314-993-9494. The Retirement Advisory Group's going to sit down and talk to you about you and what you have saved and what you are expecting in retirement. And then they're going to guide you through the steps you need to take to make sure that you have secured that very thing. 314-993-9494. Call them and set up a no cost, no obligation retirement review and see what the Retirement Advisory Group can offer you. It costs you nothing. 314-993-9494, retirementkey.com.
Is your home, business, or church looking tired, chalky, or in need of curb appeal? Go Rhino. Tired of painting year after year? Go Rhino. Our unique 3M ceramic technology is perfect for brick, stucco, aluminum, steel, color lock masonite, and more. It's backed by our 25-year transferable warranty to not chip, crack, or peel. Great if you're staying, and even better if you're selling. Our ceramic coating allows you to maintain all of your architectural features. The decision to do vinyl will leave your home looking like a plastic moldy box. With Rhino Shield, in 15 years, your home will still have that, wow, it looks like you just got it painted. We've done large condo complexes, parking garages, pole barns, and commercial strip malls. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. Evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Join the choruses of Harmony STL for Acapella Live Broadway, Saturday, June 14th at the Two Hill Performing Arts Center. Don't miss out on this acapella extravaganza with one show only at 2 p.m. Hear the incredible 5-time international champion ambassadors of Harmony alongside the recruits and Visions of Harmony. Tickets are selling fast, so get yours today at harmonystl.com or call 314-516-4949. Acapella Live Broadway, Saturday, June 14th at the Two Hill.
Is thinning hair or receding hairline making you self-conscious? Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
You need to take the time and get the full picture.
Oh, yeah, it is the moment you have been waiting for.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom.
Andy's out. Ryan and Brad are in.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
This is the Mannie Frey Show.
All right, it's Friday. It is June 6th. And I get that, we've been kind of popping around out of town. Annie's still out. Brad's out today. I was out from last Wednesday through this Wednesday. And then I came back yesterday. And so I'll be hosting today, tomorrow, and not tomorrow. I will be Wiggins America tomorrow this weekend, but a little plug there. But Monday and Tuesday as well. And then all of us will be back full show on Wednesday forever. We'll never miss another show.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I promise.
Interesting.
But before
I had some dates in mind that I thought that I would be gone.
Yeah, I think Brad's got a vacation scheduled too. I think I do too later in the summer.
Okay.
But we'll skip that.
Okay.
You can't go.
Right.
I can't go. I'm just tired of everybody being gone,
Sure.
Before I left though, I saw, and I think it was right when I was leaving, I saw that Phil Robertson had died.
Yeah. Sad news.
And it was like after my show on last Saturday, like, or the Saturday before that. I mean, it was a couple of weeks ago now, to where I really never got to talk. Like, it hit at a time where I never really got to talk about it. But my family loved Duck Dynasty, and there was a moment in time, you probably remember, where you could go in any Walmart or even other stores in the country and immediately be bombarded with Duck Dynasty stuff
everywhere.
It was like 1 year. And I mean, their show lasted longer than that, but they hit their peak in probably 2014 or something like that.
It was when I was in middle school, so that would
make sense.
Yes.
And I mean, you couldn't get away from it. It was like, oh, look, I'm wearing an Uncle Si shirt. And like, everybody loved Duck Dynasty.
Yeah.
And it was kind of this moment. I don't think they tried to be this, but they represented in culture something bigger, like a bigger backlash against the kind of Obama years. Because it was during the Obama years that Duck Dynasty was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were a little bit a part of the first Trump, not a part of the administration, but they were kind of like,
they're around,
they were at a rally here or there and stuff like that in the first term. And so, I don't think they fully intended to be in politics or anything, but they were very intentional about, and it's weird to think that this would have been a thing even in such recent history, that they had to push really hard for A&E, the network, to include their family prayer at the end of their episodes, because they initially didn't really want to do that. And the family, the Robertson family, said, we're not in charge. You're in charge of the show. You made this show, but we all are asking you with eyebrows raised and telling you this is what we want for you to include our family prayer, because it is central to who we are. And I don't think they were trying to push anything, but they were saying this is the value that keeps this whole family together.
Right.
It's the whole point of the show. And it became a real key part of watching Duck Dynasty. So anyway, all that context to say that I never was like the biggest Duck Dynasty guy, but I got the hype. My family loved it. I would watch it when I was over there. So I get it. And I even got to interview one of I think it might've been Jace's wife, who
on Wiggins America.
On
right?
Wiggins America.
See, I know these things because
you produced it.
Yeah.
I can't remember her first name. If you said it, I'd know it. But we had,
it was on a book she had written.
I don't remember the date, but I do remember we had to reschedule once because she had a book coming out and she like last minute had to cancel, and I had been promoting it a lot. And I was like, oh man, that stinks that you had to cancel like right before we're ready to do it. Well, I found out a couple weeks later, usually if you have an interview scheduled with somebody with a book, especially a pretty big name.
Is it Missy?
Missy, it is. It was Missy Robinson. They don't, I mean, their time is more valuable than your time.
Sure.
It just is. That's the way celebrity works. But she was so nice that she actually got back to me personally, not through her PR, got back to me personally a couple weeks later and said, Ryan, I'm so sorry that I had to cancel that interview. We have been waiting to either foster or adopt a little girl. And the call came in that morning that we had to go now to go get her.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And also, how nice of you to come back to me and tell me that. And then we rescheduled and we did the interview.
That's really cool. Also on Twitter, her name is Missy Duckwife.
Okay.
That's great. I just love that.
But it speaks to the character of her, to I think the family,
Mm-hmm.
to say that these are genuine people. And so when I saw this clip after Phil Robertson, it had been announced that he had died, I sent it to myself and then sent it to Ethan and said, hey, I'd like to talk about this eventually. So here we are, 2 weeks later, and I finally got this thing to Ethan. Ethan, if you want to go ahead and play it, we can talk about it.
Sounds good.
Jace talking about
hey,
this.
You're not getting any younger. And there's people after you. He was actually kind of predicting the prophecy about
this was back in 16. So yeah,
exactly. He was like, hey, somebody will, they're gonna try to kill you and all that. So it was actually really profound when I think back on that. He shared the story of Jesus and he wrote it down. And so he handed the paper to President Trump and he's like, you need to move on that. This needs to be the core of everything you do. So we're now fast forwarding 4 years. He came to Monroe. Well, my dad was there. I think my dad led a prayer at the event. We were all there. My whole family went. And President Trump pulled out of his pocket that same gospel presentation that my dad had given to him 4 years before.
Wow.
And he's like, I want you to know I still have this. It's beautiful.
Here's why I really like that story. It's not just that Phil Robertson shared the gospel with Trump. That's a cool story. I mean, this is the president of the United States, maybe the most consequential president that we'll see in our lives. That this man was able to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with President Trump. But that Trump then came back and still had it. It was important enough to him that he had it and he said, look, I still have this thing. And here's what's even cooler to me is that that's not something that he would have done for attention. Neither Phil nor Trump. That story, obviously, that story never even came out until Phil was dead. And Trump has never, ever told that story. But it was important enough for him to keep it. Now, that's something that happened in private that neither one of them has ever sought attention for. And to hear a story like that after the fact is really cool to me.
Completely agree. One, it shares of the boldness of Phil Robertson, right? Like, respect to him. I mean, this is the most powerful man in the world, the leader of the free world, freaking gazillionaire, right? I mean, this man, he defines power, right? And having no care, no concern, and saying, this has to be everything to you. This needs to be the reason you do everything. That's really cool. And I think hopefully encouraging to believers that hear that, saying like, what's stopping you, right? So that's the first cool thing. But then, yes, as you mentioned, the fact that this never became a huge thing, a huge story, proves that it was meaningful. I like to think that Donald Trump, as mentioned, the leader of the free world, probably isn't just randomly keeping around chicken scratch on a piece of paper. He probably doesn't keep that stuff around. And if he
at
does,
this time, he's the president.
And if he like has it, like, he probably is not constantly aware of its whereabouts. So for him to still have this, right? I'm not saying it was in his pocket everywhere that he went, right? But remembered it, and it was impactful enough for him several years later to pull that out in private and say, like, I still have this. This is still very meaningful to me. That's pretty cool.
Do you think, okay, I've heard a story that recently, even, that Trump now in his second term, he has to wear something on his hand because he has to shake hands so much. Everywhere he goes, people want to shake hands with him, tell him something, usually thank you or like, hey, I voted for you or whatever. Everybody wants to shake hands with Trump. If I met Trump, I would want to shake Trump's hand. That's what you do, right?
Heck yeah.
And then you get a picture. That's what everybody does. But he has to actually, because people shake his hand so much, and a lot of times very vigorously. He's not a small guy. He's a pretty athletic,
like
big.
He's like 6'3", isn't he?
Yeah, and he's like big. But he does it so much that it bruises his hand.
Really?
That, like, I'm trying to show the camera here. It doesn't really make sense on the radio, but where your index finger and your thumb meet in that webbing right there, that he has to kind of wear something on the top of his hand right there. Otherwise, he will just
like a guard or something.
Yeah, like Band-Aids or just something to cover it up, so that he's not constantly having a bruise there because he shakes hands so much.
Wow,
isn't that weird?
Yeah.
But I just tell that story because how many people want to shake the president's hand and hand him a note or, something that means a lot to you? President Trump, here's what you said one time that really did this for me, and I wanted to share that with you, whatever it is. Everybody who meets the guy probably has something like that. So for Phil Robertson to chicken scratch, who knows? I mean, in that clip, he does say that he shares the gospel, right? Like, that's what he said. I didn't just add that.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he shares the gospel on what sounds like a little piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the easiest thing to keep when you meet that many people.
Right.
And my question for you is, just before we wrap here, if you're talking about a piece of paper, I'm holding up a typical piece of printer paper here. I'm picturing it being about a fourth of that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little more. I don't know. But if you had to share the gospel with the president or anybody for that matter, because you get 10 seconds with the guy or whatever it is on that size of paper, what would you say? Because they never say in the clip what it said, but what would you say on that paper?
Boy, that's a good question. I think the best way to summarize simply and to where it can be remembered easily the gospel is to break it down into 4 parts. The first part being that God loves you and loved you enough to create you in his own image.
See, now you're already getting past the paper, though. I think this is the challenge.
You're wanting me to write down what I would say.
No, well, kind of. But I'm just saying, like, it's a tough task to even do that.
Okay, all right. 1, God's love created you. 2, sin separates you. You divided yourself from God. 3, because of that, we need the cross. Jesus died for us, saved us from our sins. 4, what's the response with that information that you have?
That's a good job. But even that, I think, would be
That's
tough
still a lot, yes.
to get on one piece of paper.
Right.
For him to keep that for that long. And I just love that Phil, and that's why I set the whole thing up at the beginning, that I said, I think this is a very genuine family with Missy, with having just that little interaction that I had with her, and just watching the show and them pushing to say, look, we really want the family prayer in there. Obviously very important to them. I think this is a very genuine family. And for him to say, like, it's weird to think that this guy with this giant beard, they wore
camo everywhere,
the Louisiana thing everywhere. They did not look rich, but these guys were rich. They were very, very wealthy after that show, because not only they have a very, very expensive, successful business in the duck calls and all the stuff. And I can remember the name of it. Somebody put it in the chat, like the name of their business, because it wasn't Duck Dynasty. But the show then made them multi-millionaires, and they had their merch everywhere. I mean, think about how much money these guys have made. Phil Robertson wanted for nothing. Like, that guy had everything. And still the most important thing for him was, here,
Duck Commander.
Duck Commander. Make this the central part of your life. That's cool. I mean, I just thought that was really, really neat. And since we talked about that the whole segment, I did want to mention, like, some of these crazy supernatural stories. I talked about this in the same exact time yesterday, so I was trying not to do that today. But if you happen to tune in at the same time yesterday, you will have heard a couple of these stories about the celebrity near-death experiences. I just find them fascinating. I got a couple more that I'm going to share in the next segment. If you find that interesting like I do, stick around.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on X at Annie Frey Show.
I'm Emma Greed, and I've spent the last 20 years building, running, and investing in some incredible businesses. The more success I've had, the more people started coming to me with questions. How do you start a business? How do you raise money? How do I bounce back from failure? On my new podcast, Aspire with Emma Greed, I'll be answering these questions and more through weekly conversations with the smartest minds out there. Listen to and follow Aspire with Emma Greed, an Odyssey podcast, available now, wherever you get your podcasts.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Get this, 42% of baby boomers don't even know how much money they have in their nest egg. If you're not sure where you stand in terms of getting ready for retirement, you should be listening to the All Financial Hour with Steve All.
Let's sit down and talk about your questions, because I think that's the most important thing that it is out there. It's what questions do you have?
Tune in to the All Financial Hour with Steve All, Saturday mornings at 6, right here on 97.1 FM Talk.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show, live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Save now with Carrier Cool Cash rebates up to $1,700 on a new AC or HVAC system. For details and a free estimate, visit aircomfortservice.com.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on X at Annie Frey Show.
Just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like.
Thank you. Ryan Wiggins filling in for Annie Frey. And I will for a couple days. Hope that's okay. Yesterday at this time, I shared a couple stories about celebrities who died. And I said then, it's not really about the fact that they're celebrities. There's a lot of stories out there about people who died and came back and what they saw and stuff. And I think they're all pretty interesting. But when it's a celebrity like Jeremy Renner, kind of like Phil Robertson, like these people are at the top of their profession. They're worldwide famous. They don't really need money. they have nothing to gain from telling these stories, which is why I find them more interesting. That when he had that injury with it was like a massive tractor or something that rolled over him, almost killed him. In fact, he says did kill him. He told the near-death experience story, and I told that yesterday. And then I told one about Jamie Foxx too, and Jamie Foxx's was actually very negative. He started going down a dark tunnel. Did you hear this? We were talking about it yesterday. You weren't in the room.
No, I did not hear this.
Jamie Foxx started going down. He collapsed in 2023. It was like both Jeremy Renner and Jamie Foxx were in similar situations, different injuries, different causes of death, but they both had stuff happen and everybody knew something had happened to them, but nobody really knew what.
Right.
Jamie Foxx, similarly, something happened. It just medical complications, they said. And he passed out and then got taken to a hospital where his sister was praying for him outside the room. Well, he said in the hospital room, he started going down a tunnel and he felt like he was like, and in his words, which were very salty, he's like, I'm not going down this blanking tunnel because it was hot. And he's like, I'm going to the wrong blanking place. In his words, that's what he said. But his sister was who had brought him to the hospital was outside the room, like on the floor praying for him. And he said he got brought back.
What the heck?
And that's as far as he tells the story. He didn't tell much else than that.
Jamie Foxx. Wow.
He said
that's
it was
crazy.
He said the tunnel for him was hot, and he started to freak out because he goes, "This isn't where I want to go."
Yeah.
And at the end, he could see like something like beckoning him, and he did not want to go there.
Whoa, that's pretty crazy,
right? So get the podcast, Ethan.
Nice.
You can listen to it yesterday. But I found this article with all these different celebrity stories. Some of them are here's a little background for you. I'll tell you a story. I used to do a TV show based on this topic. I don't know if you knew that. It was called What It's Like to Die. You could probably still find it out there somewhere. It's buried in the algorithm on YouTube. I probably at this point, but you could find it if you search my name, What It's Like to Die. The TV show, I shot probably 4 episodes of it total. This would have been 2012 through 2015-ish, around there. The show never got picked up, though. So I only ended up finishing like 1 or 2 of the episodes, and then I have all this footage still that I never did anything with. Well, over the span of doing that show, I met hundreds of people, and I'd have to seek them out. I met hundreds of people who'd have death experiences. And I was looking for commonality. I was looking for, really, because it's TV too, I was looking for interesting stories and people who could tell those stories well. And the more background I could find on verifying their stories, the better. But ultimately, I found, of these hundreds of people, 90% of them, they would have very genuine stories. I'm not saying they weren't real, but they were quick. They were very fast stories. Like usually a hospital room, but sometimes somewhere else. I felt myself leaving my body and looking down on myself, and I realized something about life or death, and then I went back in my body. Like that's the nature of most of the stories that I would find. Doesn't mean that I didn't believe them. They were just such quick stories, and there were so many of them that were similar that I was like, I can't really do a lot with that for TV. In fact, one of them, I hope I'm not like sharing anything I shouldn't here. One of the guys was from New Haven, Missouri, and he was a race car driver. And I don't know like the different types. I think it was more of like a NASCAR stock car.
Okay.
I'm not very good at qualifying that.
Sure.
But he, as far as I know, still lives in New Haven and could be listening right now. Don't even know. And he died while racing. And I don't know where it was, but the thing I remember about it is that they had footage of his death because he was in a race. And so they were recording it because it's a race, even if it wasn't a huge one. And I'm like, dude, you have video recording of the moment this happened to you? And he's like, yeah, I got the wreck. We got the wreck. And I'm like, well, shoot, for TV, that's pretty good, So, so I kind of followed up with him, but even his story was one where he went way up above, out of his body, according to him, above the racetrack. And the crazy thing is he said, I was looking down on people scrambling to help me and to clean up the wreckage of my car. And because it was a bad wreck, obviously he was dead. But the other thing that was interesting is he said he was looking out into the parking lot of this racetrack, and he could see all these different cars and things going on far away, that when he came back, he was able to report on and say, oh, look, I saw these. I can tell you how I know is because I saw this stuff in the parking lot out there. And they really kind of verify like, yeah, there's no way you would have been able to see that other than being up that high or in the parking lot, which you clearly were not in the parking lot. We knew where you were.
Yeah.
So just cool stories like that. But the ones that I was looking for the most were ones where they went a little further.
Right.
They saw heaven or hell or something more than just I left and I came back quick, right? Because tell a story. It's a TV show. In the midst of doing that, I met a lot. I shouldn't say a lot. I met some kooks. I met some people whose stories were a little goofy, and I wasn't sure really what to do with them. And the more I tried to verify those stories, the more I ran into brick walls. And here's the crazy thing. One of those guys he had an amazing story. I had him come to a church that I was at once because I thought, gosh, this is an amazing story. I couldn't quite, it's a death story. You can't verify it. You can't get the facts and be like, well, I think the part about the tunnel's right, but the part about heaven, I don't know. You can't verify it. So you have to verify as much around it as you can. Well, I hadn't quite gotten to that point with him when he came to guest speak at a church that I had been attending. And here's what's wild. This was in Pontoon Beach, Illinois. He speaks, he gives his testimony, he gives his story. Well, this wasn't a huge church. It wasn't a small church, but it wasn't a huge church. And this was like a Sunday night, an extra service. We didn't publicize it. The guy's name wouldn't have meant anything. We said, oh, Joe is coming. Nobody's gonna be like, oh, wow, I'm gonna go see Joe. Nobody knew who he was. So he comes and speaks. He gives his story about how he died and he went to heaven and all this. And it's a very, very fascinating story. Well, because we hadn't publicized it, this was really before social media too. It's like 20 years ago. No, we didn't expect any guests to be showing up at church on a Sunday night to see him specifically. But a dad and a son showed up. And we were all like, oh, okay, it's a church. So great. Love it when new people come. But we didn't expect anybody to come. So they sit down. Nobody's ever seen these two guys before. It's a dad and a son, probably 10-year-old kid. And they sat down. Nobody thought anything of it. Everybody's just there to hear the guy speak. So he starts speaking and starts telling his story. In the middle of this guy speaking, that dad stands up in the church service and yells, "You're not glorifying God. You're glorifying yourself." And then everybody stops and turns and is like, who is that guy? Nobody's seen this guy before. And then people are like, this guy's belligerent, so they try to get him out of there,
Mhm.
and he leaves with he left easily. Like him and his son, they just left.
Sure.
And I was like, what in the world just happened? And the guy speaking, old Joe or whatever, he's like, it stirs up the spirits whenever you talk about this stuff. And I was like, man, I don't know what to make of that. Well, later I found out old Joe was a crackpot. And his story did not make any sense. He would tell it multiple different ways.
Oh no.
So I had acted prematurely in inviting him to speak, and I learned my lesson. Like, I was pretty young when I was doing this, but I learned my lesson and found out, oh man, like old Joe isn't his name, but that's what I'm calling him.
Sure.
This guy was totally illegit. And
man.
but then I always thought back to who's the random guy that walked in that nobody knew, who stood up and yelled, this guy is a fraud.
Right.
Like, what? So I never have known what to make of that story. I've never told it before, but there you go.
That's so weird.
There's a little background on why I'm interested in all these stories. So they give one on Al Pacino here. Al Pacino says that he died. It's one of those where it goes up, comes down. Not to say that's not interesting, but here's the one that I was like, ooh, I'm gonna tell this one. Nikki Sixx. You know who Nikki Sixx is? Motley Crue.
Okay.
In the 1980s, Motley Crue was notorious for their drug usage, and it almost spelled the end for co-founder Nikki Sixx, as he wrote in a 2017 op-ed for the Los Angeles Times. Heroin nearly killed me. As a matter of fact, it did. For 2 minutes in 1987, I was pronounced clinically dead from an overdose. On December 23rd, 1987, after a drug-fueled evening of partying with fellow rock stars from Rat and Guns N' Roses, man, talk about a time period.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's like a time capsule. Sixx was shooting up between snorts of cocaine and shots of booze when he was injected with one last dose of heroin and promptly passed out. However, this overdose wasn't like previous ones. Sixx estimates that he has overdosed about a half a dozen times.
Jeez.
Because the now 66-year-old turned blue. In his memoir, The Heroin Diaries, A Year in the Life of the Shattered Rock Star, he stated that Slash's then girlfriend, Sally McLaughlin, desperately tried to perform mouth-to-mouth resuscitation because she thought, uh-oh, he's dead. Before an ambulance could arrive, Nikki Sixx had an out-of-body experience. He recalled, I tried to sit up to figure out what was going on because everybody around him was kind of panicking. I thought it would be really hard to lift my body, but to my surprise, I shot upright as if I weighed nothing. Then it felt as if something very gentle was grabbing my head and pulling me upward. Above me, everything was bright white. I looked down and realized I had left my body. Nikki Sixx, or the filthy tattooed container that had once held him, this is him speaking, was lying covered face to toe with a sheet on a gurney being pushed by medics into an ambulance. He's looking down on himself. Once paramedics were on the scene, they revived Nikki Sixx with 2 shots of adrenaline into his heart and rushed him to the hospital, which he wasn't pleased about. Sixx remembers waking up and saying, quote, there was a cop asking me questions, so I told him to go blank himself. I ripped out my tubes and staggered in just my leather pants into the parking lot where 2 teenage girls were sitting crying out around a candle. They were fans. They had heard on the radio that I was dead and looked kind of surprised to see me.
I can imagine.
Amidst the chaos, word had gotten out that Sixx had in fact died, and news stations started reporting it. However, after the teens got over their initial shock, they gave Nikki Sixx a ride, a jacket, and a lecture about quitting drugs. The incident inspired Motley Crue's 1989 hit, Kickstart My Heart.
Oh, no way.
Kid
what the
you
heck?
not. Kid you not. Now, if you want a little bit deeper out of body, now that one's like, okay, went out of body, came back real quick, right? But the story is just interesting. Tracy Morgan. How about this one?
Yeah, okay.
So did you know that he had some health issues too?
I just knew about he was the one that got in the major car accident.
He got,
right?
yes, I should say health issues. Yeah, he had
That's what you were referring to?
That's what I'm referring
okay,
to.
yes.
That's what I'm referring to. On June 7th, 2014, a Walmart truck collided with the back of a 10-seat limousine, carrying Tracy Morgan and 4 other passengers on the New Jersey Turnpike. Morgan's friend and mentor, comedian James McNair, known as Uncle Jimmy Mack, was killed in the crash, while Morgan and the other 3 passengers suffered severe injuries. In his 2017 special, Staying Alive, the 30 Rock star stated, "I suffered some terrible injuries, traumatic brain injury. I broke every bone in my face, my ribs. I pulverized my femur. I'm from the ghetto, and after I came out of the coma, I was blind for a week." I'm not sure why he says I was from the ghetto there, but he does. Morgan was in a coma for 2 weeks and claims that during that time, he saw a glimpse of the afterlife. Quote, "I went to the other side. This is not something I'm making up. Do you know what God said to me? He said, your room ain't ready. I still got something to do for you. And here I am doing an interview with you."
That's insane.
After the comedian awoke, he was in a wheelchair for 5 months and went into rehab to relearn how to both walk and speak. A year later, he made a triumphant return to SNL as host. I actually remember some of this.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that he was in a bad accident, but a lot of times when these things happen to big celebrities, the PR team kind of takes over and locks everything down because they want to filter out information very carefully.
Right.
Because they're thinking long term, like, well, if they come back like he did, we want to make sure that this doesn't become the defining characteristic of this person, that you only think about that and that kills their career or something like that, which I totally understand. But in a 2020 interview with Oprah Winfrey for Super Soul Sunday, the now 56-year-old Tracy Morgan explained that he'll never be normal again, but a few of the changes in his life have been for the better. Quote, "I told my wife that the other day, something's different. The way I am with people, something's just different. I find myself saying, I love you 200 times a day to strangers. I don't care. I don't got to know you to love you. I love you." He continued, "That's how we're supposed to be as human beings. We're supposed to take care of each other. What we see sometimes down here on earth, ain't no room for that up in heaven. Ain't no room for it." I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So there's a few more of those. We'll see if I can filter them in over the next couple days. We're not going to do any more today, but I will tell you that there's some names that you'd know in here. Burt Reynolds is one of them.
Wow.
I thought some of those were the better stories. So
just to say real quick, it's cool how, it's almost like in these situations, it's like, don't waste it. Don't waste the gift that's been given to you. And, it's refreshing to, hear and see people to this caliber of celebrity, like, get hit deep with that and understand that and implement that. So that's cool to hear the response as to, how they go following the trauma they experience.
Yeah, I like hearing the way that it changed them here, which a lot of these don't tell. I mean, these are pretty quick hit little bullet point things. But Tracy Morgan's been really open about that. I've actually read, he's one of the only ones in this whole packet. It's a very thick packet of different people. Be surprised at how many different celebrities have had these things happen and don't talk about them for a long, long time. And then, toward the end of their life, they might write a memoir. Like Elizabeth Taylor is one of them. Weird, We'll take a short break. We got one more segment left before Mark Reardon takes over. I think we're going to talk autographs because apparently, I didn't know this, Ethan is an autograph junkie, and you're around enough sports that you probably got some pretty good ones. So
I do.
Let's hear about that coming up next.
Good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
Have you ever had a wedding reception in your yard or scheduled a party, birthday party, or whatever kind of party at your house, and during the party or a couple, 3 hours before, notice your air conditioner is not working and it is the hottest day of the year? Or have you come home from a vacation and your house is baking? My experience has been that's when it will break. It just happens that way. So if that does happen to you, or say, again, you don't need to have a party or you don't need to be baked. But if your air conditioner breaks and you need to get the cold air back in your house, call me, Bart Inman. One easy number in Missouri and Illinois. That is 314-293-2600. Again, the easiest of numbers, 314-293-2600, or on the internet, bartinman.com. It's Bart with a B, Inman with an I.com.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is letting everyone know about great debt relief options now available to help people with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of your credit card debt. Get a free debt relief consultation when you call 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040. 800-586-4040.
Spring into a new home with amazing savings at TR Hughes. Hi, I'm Jason Hughes with TR Hughes Homes, and we are currently offering half off up to $40,000 in options and up to $5,000 in closing costs on brand new to-be-built homes at select TR Hughes communities. That's right, half up to $40,000 in options and up to $5,000 in closing costs. Visit trhughes.com for details.
The choice of a home builder is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertising.
However, you really should visit trhughes.com.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song. You can't imagine life without them. So tell them today, I love you. Get screened. It could help save their life. Visit cancer.org/getscreened to learn more.
If you've listened to 97.1 FM Talk, you have heard of Doug Voss of Voss Financial and Safe Money Radio, as he has been a staple as the financial expert on the station for many years. You can hear him on Safe Money Radio every Saturday at 2, right here on 97.1 FM Talk, and you can talk to Doug Voss directly. Here's his number. Call Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That is 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Scott, can you believe it's already been more than a decade since the Queen of Carpets sold flooring to St. Louis area contractors?
I know, but I don't have to be a king to offer contractors today's lowest prices.
Yes, contractors owe it to their customers and themselves to shop at Best Buy Flooring for the largest in-stock selection of carpet, carpet tile, sheet vinyl, laminate, hardwood, luxury vinyl plank, and luxury vinyl tile.
Plus 3 convenient locations, North County, South County, and Metro East.
Open 7 days a week.
Best flooring, best selection, Best Buy. Best Buy Flooring.
You've been listening to the very popular Wellness One for many years, Saturdays and Sundays on 97.1 FM Talk. We're happy to share that we've expanded the show to 4 times a week. Yes, 4 times every weekend. Saturday at 10 a.m., Saturday at 8 p.m., Sunday at 9 a.m., and Sunday at 2 p.m. It's the same great show designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you a common sense, science-based strategy for a healthy life. So join TJ and Aaron for Wellness One. Now 4 times a week on 97.1 FM Talk.
Today's YouTube live chat poll: should conservatives take sides in Musk versus Trump? The options: yes, balance the budget; yes, pass the president's agenda; or just no, overall, we should not be taking sides. We are close to 200 votes on the live chat poll. Go to Annie Frey Show on YouTube and vote in the live chat. We'll be sharing the results of those here just in a couple of minutes. The time, 2:45. Scratch that. It's 2:46 now. And the time check, sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
JerryKelly.com.
Where it began, I can't begin to know.
This is the Annie Frey Show. Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
I think it's pretty well known that Ethan is a sports guy. Ethan wants to be a broadcaster. Well, you are a broadcaster, but you want to be a sports broadcaster. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Do you find it like you're around so many of these, like, probably childhood heroes in a sense, whether they be in the booth or on the field? Do you find it hard or even inappropriate to walk up to somebody and say, "Can I get your autograph?"
Oh yeah, depending on
it's a professional thing, right?
All depending on the scene, right? It's all depending on the atmosphere, where you are, how well you know these guys, because there are times when it is acceptable and I've gotten away with it, right? But there's totally times when it's a no. If you do this now, you are going to hurt your image, right? Because there is a difference, right, between fan and media. And part of that for me has been a maturing thing, right? Of like, and part of it is just the more time that you're around it. But when I first, started being a more part of that media group, the asking for autographs, I was never like, oh, I'm gonna ask for this person's autograph in like the clubhouse or something, right? That's like, because that's how you get kicked out. But what was hard at first was like, just like that being normal. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm in here, I'm around all these people. That's Nolan Arenado, that's Paul Goldschmidt, that's Albert Pujols, that's yada, like that was the part.
Yeah, you're in person with
that
them.
was hard. Now it's just normal.
Now you don't even care.
Well, now, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say
These
I
are
don't
human
care.
beings, and you don't even care a lick about them.
Yeah, you got it, Ryan. That's exactly what I was going for. No, it is when you're around it long enough, you adapt to it like you do anything else, and it just and you do have moments where you're like, man, this is pretty cool. For example, like, on opening day, I was down in the Cardinals dugout prior to everything getting going. The stadium still wasn't open yet, and you're watching the guys play catch, and they're coming in and out, and reporters have access to the dugout during that time. And I think Mo Zaylock spoke on opening day in there to reporters and stuff. And Lars Nootbaar walks by. Hey, how's it going, Lars? You fist pump, stuff like that is cool, right? Those small little interactions. But when I was just starting off, I couldn't have imagined even speaking to these guys, because they're Major League Baseball players, right? They're professionals. They play for the Cardinals, the team that you grew up praising and worshiping, right? So there is an adjustment to that sense. To go back to the autographs, I still am a autograph junkie. I love autographs, but I have to compartmentalize when I am big into that and when I am doing my job, if that makes sense.
So is there an autograph in your collection? Because we were talking off air, like you are a memorabilia guy, which is totally, I would imagine that everybody who just is passionate about that profession is a memorabilia person, because it's like part of the ambience. Is there a cherished piece that you have that you're like, oh yeah, that's my best one? Or autograph?
Yes. So last year, in my first year with the Cardinals was 2023, which was Adam Wainwright's final season. And after game 162, I just said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go up. I'm going to talk to him. Just going to thank him for his impact, just for the Cardinals, but also just as, a young kid that, Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright, them all being outspoken about their faith and being with the Cardinals was really impactful for me, because like now it's the combination of like two important worlds for me. So I thanked him for him being open about his faith and telling as a 10-year-old kid how important that was. And I got the chance to talk for a minute or two. Someone from the Post-Dispatch snapped a picture of that interaction, and it ended up in an article about Waino's final game and the cleaning out of the clubhouse and all of that. I was able to get those pictures. I got it blown up and printed out in the nice HD, paid like $60 or whatever for it. And now Adam Wainwright is a broadcaster and he does games for Fox. So they came to the ballpark last year, and I had this blown up and printed out, and I asked him to sign it for me. He remembered the interaction. It was only a few months prior.
That's cool, though, even that he remembered it.
Yeah, he signed it to me, and he signed his favorite scripture, which is Acts 20:24. I think it was 24:20, one of the two. It's one of them.
It's so important to you.
It's one of those. I said it's important to him, right? No, it's I think it's 20:24. But so I have that now on my wall. That is one of my bigger ones. More so because of the sentimental value behind it.
Oh yeah, it's a neat story.
And I am in the picture, right? Interacting with him. That's what makes that one so special. I have a lot of great ones. I have a baseball signed by all of the Cardinals broadcasters. Chip Carey, Joe Buck signed it when he came into town last year and broadcasted a game. Rooney, Claiborne, Ricky, all these guys, great names and people I consider friends now. So that one has a lot of sentimental value. Those are the coolest ones. The ones that I have some ones that you could argue are bigger names, but they were either given to me or I won them or whatever, like still cool. But the ones that have that, like the value where like I had that interaction behind it, or there's the story behind them, I think is the cool parts about those.
Okay, conversely, are there any autographs that you've been chasing that you really have wanted but you don't have? Your great white whale that you've been going after but you don't have them yet.
So I have Albert Pujols' autograph. It was given to me. It's signed. It's a picture of him actually when he's with the Dodgers. But
Really?
like, Albert Pujols is Albert Pujols, right? So I'm like, okay, that's okay. I would love to, and I have met Albert. It was super briefly in 2023 in the broadcast booth when him and Yachty were back in town for Waino's final game. I met them very briefly, got a picture with Albert, but it was the quickest 10-second. Hi, Albert, can we get a picture? My boss snapped in. That was it. It was so fast. I would love to actually have a couple of minutes to talk to him, do something similar to what that I was able to do with Waino, and get a baseball signed by him. I like the baseball signed. They just look cleaner.
I was telling you off air, I have a baseball, and I still don't remember where I got it, but I know in the back of my head that it's authentic because whoever gave it to me was somebody within the media orbit that I'm like, well, then it's for sure, you know? But oddly, growing up with cystic fibrosis, there's a lot of like, I don't want to call it make-a-wish stuff, but I got access to things that I wouldn't have otherwise. And so I have a stick from when I was a kid that is signed by Brett Hull and Brendan Shanahan that I still have.
That's awesome.
Because I'm like, well, Brett Hull's still in town.
You have these like presented on your wall or something?
Yeah, I have them
Okay.
in my basement.
That's awesome.
But I have a ball too that I'm not really sure what to do with. I just kind of have a little pedestal for it. It just kind of sits there. But it's got Albert Pujols' signature, Jack Buck, and Ozzie Smith.
Oh my God.
That's got to be pretty valuable.
Yeah.
Especially because they're not making any new ones.
St. Louis
for,
fame. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Jack Bucks. But the other, like, I had a professional kind of run in accidentally. So, like, if you're in the media booth, I understand that now. I'm in media now.
Right.
Before I worked at golf courses around the area. And one of them I worked at was Gateway Golf Course, right over the river. And I guess because it's kind of even though it's in Illinois, right next to Gateway International Raceway, it's the closest golf course to downtown.
Okay.
And so we would get a lot of celebrities. We had like the whole river dance team come out there once and just the most random things. So any sports celebrities would come there, especially if they're from out of town. Well, one day, it was during probably 2005 playoffs or 4, Cardinals versus Astros. And Albert came out one day, and I had the newspaper, the Post-Dispatch that day, and I went up to him and had him sign it. Well, apparently that is faux pas. Like, the owners of the course were like, don't ever ask the players for autographs.
I can't believe he did it.
I didn't even know that was a thing. You know, I'm just a kid.
Sure.
And so then the next day, though, I still have the newspaper there because I was showing the other guys, like, hey, look what I got. Roger Clemens comes out.
Oh my God.
He's also on the newspaper. So now I'm going,
was it a lesson
what
learned
do I
or
do?
no?
What do I do? I'm like, I'm gonna do it. So I went for it. And he signed it.
Did you get in trouble again?
No, nobody knew that it happened.
That's amazing.
Until now.
That's so funny.
So I got a newspaper with Albert and Roger Clemens, both signature on it. That was pretty cool. All
That's
right,
super cool.
The YouTube live chat poll of the day: should conservatives take sides in Musk versus Trump? There are 3 options. Yes, they should balance the budget. That's Musk's side. Yes, pass the president's agenda. That's the Trump side. Or no, we should not be taking sides. How did this poll turn out?
So close to 200 votes. So close. 198 on today's YouTube live chat poll. Should conservatives take sides in Musk versus Trump? 14% say yes. Yes, Musk balance the budget, right? 39% say yes for Trump, pass his agenda, and then 46% say no, Ryan.
No. So no is the majority. People saying, I kind of like want to see this play out, or at least I like parts of both of what these guys are saying. All right, no wins the poll today. Mark Reardon and the Roundtable up next to talk about these things.
So beat the drum with me.
Summer is here and Air Comfort Service is at the ready with Carrier Cool Cash rebates for you and your air conditioning needs. Air conditioner service, a new AC unit. You're not going to find a better company in town to service or install the HVAC equipment that you need. I'm a customer myself of Air Comfort Service. I speak very highly as an experienced customer of theirs. You can call 314-513-0091 if you find yourself needing to replace your air conditioner this summer. If your entire HVAC system needs attention, they can help you with that as well. You can save up to $1,700 with Carrier Cool Cash rebates, but you do not want to wait on this. They're set to end on the 27th. So contact Air Comfort Service.